Hello and welcome to the CLOL semifinals here. It's a Toronto matchup as far as I'm aware. My name is Natural and I'm joined today by Ethan. How are you doing, my man?
I'm doing great. I'm ready for a good game of League, and especially one that's so filled to the brim with animosity between these two Toronto teams. Just earlier in the precast, we were talking about some other rivalries around Canada. The Vancouver one's pretty intense, but we get intense in Toronto as well. I'm excited to see some sparks fly and see where we can get going as draft starts to light up here with Ash being our first pick after three bans. TMU banning Vibe, Zinzao, and Varus, whereas U of T banning Tarek, Graves, and Thresh. Any notes
Yeah,
about those?
the Tarek is a pretty interesting ban. I haven't really seen Tarek be banned in pretty much any context in a very long time. And I haven't seen it on either of the OPGGs, so I'm not totally sure exactly where that ban is coming from. But regardless, yeah, it's going to be Ash. Then Tristanic is going to be the pick here for U of T as the answer into the Ash. It's a pretty
Mm-hmm.
solid matchup. Tristana has been pretty good for a few patches now, so I'm not too surprised that it's being picked up. Are there any picks that you're looking forward to seeing?
Yeah, I mean, I know we had a little bit of a discussion about their mains earlier on, and I was interested to see some of those higher skill cap champions come into the play. Maybe an Irelia, maybe a Riven, but as we can see, some of the other ones have also been banned. Maybe the Zinzao or the Thresh, which could have offered maybe a pivotal role in the top or bottom lanes, which have become so important in these more recent seasons. With Wukong being the second pick in U of T, makes me think that they're going to go for a all-in brawl skirmish type of comp, which could be interesting as well.
Yeah, usually I mean Tristana and Wukong definitely fit kind of a more dive-oriented composition. Um, so we'll have to see if they take up more of those. Udyr is being considered here, and is actually going to be the lock-in for TMU. I haven't seen Udyr in a while. I feel like Udyr isn't that
Hmm.
popular for champion anymore.
No, but with such a diverse way of being able to play him and different builds that he has access to, I feel like he's never truly out of the meta. It's just whether or not you can make him work for the team comp that you're trying to slot him into,
Mm-hmm.
such that he could be a tank, could be a bruiser, can be like a off damage carry with that AP build that he used to go. Not sure if that's possible anymore.
Yeah, I
But
don't
with
know.
Lissandra and Ornn being picked, it looks like it's going to be a pick dive comp for TMU with Ash and Lissandra being able to take those engages whenever they want it with their high CC ultimate abilities.
Yeah, it's they do have some engage options as well in TMU. I think it's pretty interesting how TMU seems to be picking a lot of Freljord champions up. I'm pretty
That's
sure
true.
Udyr is like, I don't know, it's very blue flavored, excuse me, on TMU. Maybe they've been watching a lot of Severance. That show has a lot of color coding. It's pretty cool. Very cool
Hmm.
show. If you haven't watched it yet, it's very, very good. But yeah, there's a whole thing in that show about how like blue signifies something and red signifies something else. I won't spoil you. But yeah, TMU are opting into Team Blue here. Ash, Udyr, Lissandra. Lissandra is also like a pretty popular like anti-dive option, right? People really like taking her into situations where people just have to run into you and you just get to press W over and over again. So there's that as well. It looks like UFT are going to be looking for Hui as their mid laner. Hui has comfort. Excuse me. Hui has comfort for UFT. I'm pretty sure it's like one of his more popular champions.
Hmm.
And Hui is very decent. He's been decent like pretty much since he released. It's
Yeah.
just like the champion just doesn't have like a spot where he's particularly bad, doesn't have a spot where he's particularly good. He's just always kind of like he's become like a new staple of mid lane, it seems.
Incredibly dynamic. And I think that's sort of the aspect that U of T is trying to emphasize here. Looking to be able to win each of their lanes and be able to win the team fights. In comparison to TMU, which seems a lot more focused on that mid to late game when you're able to get picks and make even a single kill be the decider. I'd be interested to see how early game plays out and dictates how both of these teams can make their team comps work or not work.
Mm-hmm. And it looks like support is being dropped as the last pick here. TMU is going to pick up the Rakan for themselves. Rakan is actually a very decent pairing for the Tristana, but it's actually Morgana going to be the option here for UTR. That's a very interesting counter pick. There are like more obvious counter picks to Rakan. Lysandra is actually one of them, pioneered by Mickey in the LEC as far as
Good
pro
pull.
play goes. But it's obviously Lysandra is already picked. No, but there are like more obvious counter picks to Rakan. I believe Nautilus is one of them. Janna is another like potential counter pick. So you're going for Morgana instead, which feels less obvious. And it's not a support champion that I've seen very often.
Yeah, an interesting key difference between those is Nautilus and Janna are very intent on shutting down that W dash and being able to shut down Rakan himself, whereas it seems like Morgana seems to be a holistic pick for the entire team, able to block not just Rakan engage, but also a Lysandra ulti, an Ashe ultimate, even an Udyr charging at you for a gank. You're able to black shield that and essentially nullify any early game advancements that TMU might be able to cheese out of bot lane.
Yeah, the black shield value of this game does go pretty crazy. You can block a lot of stuff with it, and there's not that many ways to proc it. It's like it's a magic damage shield, right? So if you do magic damage, it disappears. But yeah, it's basically, I mean, as far as magic damage goes, it's kind of just Lysandra, and I don't think this Tristana should ever be in range of actually taking enough damage from this Lysandra to have it pop. So yeah, it does seem like some pretty solid value here, but it's a very rarely seen pick, and I think for good reason. It's like a pretty awkward champion in my opinion. It feels like the more you go, the higher in elo you go, and the less Morgana becomes effective. It feels like very telegraphed Q. She kind of does only really one thing. She's very frustrating to play against if you're playing like Thresh or something. But yeah, I don't know. It feels like the champion is not that popular for a reason. Is there a comp that you favor right now?
I was just about to ask you the exact same question with how much Morgana hating was coming out of your end. I actually still... I was going to say I prefer U of T here, but then again, TMU seems to have that free scaling aspect on that end with the Scion, with all the free abilities to get picks. It's really on the onus of U of T to disrupt that scaling and get an advantage of their own. So I'd say it's lightly in favor of TMU in terms of team composition, but I can definitely see as well how U of T could run away with it, even with their own scaling in the form of Ornn, or maybe a Fed Wukong, or a Fed ADC, or even if Hui gets ahead, I know that magic damage can start piling up, and the CC helps it inevitably with the layers that you can get on with Morgana and Hui and Ornn amplifying that to endless lengths. What about you? What do you think?
As far as my opinion goes, I think the way I see it, TMU has one big problem, and that's a lack of damage. These champions on TMU, not a lot of them actually do any damage. In fact, you can say that pretty much none of them actually do damage. Ashe is like a very support-oriented character. She can do damage if she gets extraordinarily fed. That's generally not the case, in these games. The higher elo you go, and the less this kind of like stuff happens, right? Pretty much all of the players in this lobby are masters, at the very least. And in this elo, Ashe generally isn't a hyper carry. She's a support character. You use your Hawkshaw, you get information, you get picks with your Enchanted Crystal Arrow. Udyr is, again, like you can technically build him like an assassin or a damage dealer, but that's not what he's meant to be. He's like a skirmisher at best, right? Lysandra is kind of the same thing. She's more set up for her team rather than actual damage. Scion is just a straight up tank, and Rakan is a support character. So there's really not like, if you swap this like Ashe for a Jinx, I'd be like, yeah, I see it. Like I can totally get behind like the team composition. You got a fat front line, so much crowd control. You're buying time for your AD carry to do a bunch of damage, and you've got some AP damage like within the mix with like the Lysandra and the Udyr. But the way I see it right now, Um, I who's gonna kill this Orin? Is my question. So yeah, it's pretty much I see UFT's team composition. I can kind of like see it. It's like basically, oh, we're starting with like Tristana Wukong. It's like pretty safe, blind picks that can
Hmm.
kind of do whatever. Very like vanilla flavored champions that can kind of fit into any composition. You pick the Ornn, you have a solid front line, and Hui is comfort, and then we pick up Morgana because we can see they have like so much crowd control in their team.
Yeah.
And it feels very flexible, right? You can like play it slow, you can play front to back. If you're looking to like stomp on the carries, you can just engage with the Ornn horn, just dash with the Wukong. Like you can get on top of their carries. So to me, it feels like UFT have the better team composition. They have more tools in the toolbox, and on top of that, their tools are sharper, in my opinion. This is a better team composition overall for UFT. They have more options, they have more damage, they scale just as well, if not better, because they have an Ornn as well as a Tristana, whose scaling got buffed as far as I'm aware recently, and they have better range. It's just a win all across the board, in my opinion, for UFT.
Some good analysis in there, and I can't really rebut any of it, considering I haven't played League in quite some time. Um, but I'm sticking with TMU on this, and
Okay.
I hate to vote
Yeah,
against my own school,
no,
but
take your bets.
we're on the right sides. I'm on the left,
Pick
Natural
your
here on
corner,
the
man.
right. And we can only see how the game plays out as
Aren't you?
we.
Wait, are you a student at either of these universities? This is an important
Yeah,
detail.
yeah. I'm a U of T student, so comes with
And
a
you're
little
going
bit of inbuilt
against them.
bias. Yeah,
You're a betrayer to your
unfortunate.
cause.
I hate playing against CC. What can I say? It's hard to mess up an Ash Arrow or a Lissandra R. You can't miss it.
I mean, that's
And it
fair.
takes a lot of skill to be able to black shield it. Like you have to either predict it like a minute in advance or have crazy reaction times. And you
I
can't
believe in these
always.
players. I believe in these players. I
Okay.
think they're capable
Okay.
of black shielding an Ash Arrow. Yeah, yeah, yeah. They can do it. They can do it.
Let's
On
see
top
if
of
they
that,
can do it on a rainy night on the Rift.
exactly. And on top of that, I mean, they have an Ornn, right? If the Ornn stands in between you and the Ash, then
It's true.
oh, is she gonna arrow the Ornn? Who's gonna do damage to this Ornn? He picks up,
Yeah.
and oh, by the way, the Mercs value this game is absolutely crazy. It
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
insane. I don't want to see any tabbies, or sorry, I'm a boomer. It's steel caps now. I don't want to see any steel caps on this team of UFT. I want to see Ornn, Wukong build those mercs. They're expensive now.
Mhm.
They're premium. They're 1,000 gold each, but they are worth it this game. You got to get those Gucci shoes on. You got to get the slides, man. This is insane value for your money. This game, you cannot like just sit on your Nikes today. You got to get out like the fancy stuff.
With that draft out the way, I think it's about time that we look at the two teams with TMU Blue coming up first. And with TMU Blue, we've got from left to right, Akaze, scary on with his main being Riven, Scary Deathman, main being Graves, Intez on Irelia, now Tamori on Fizz, and Jay on Thresh.
And
Considering these are not their actual characters, their mains, it's interesting to see the plethora of different playstyles and experience they have on high skill cap characters. Why don't you lead us into Toronto Ruby here, Natural?
I will. For Toronto Ruby, we've got Pragma, Destro, Hermes, Rocks, and Orange. I like the names. I've got to say, I have a preference. I think the IGNs are also cooler on Toronto Ruby. And I know this is the UFT's stream, so I'm cashing in some cookies right now. I'm cashing in some rewards, some good favors. No, but I am impartial to this combat. I'm from Vancouver. I have a different set of beefs, so I'm completely objective here. And yeah, as you said on the screen, their most played champions of this split, according to OPGG, Nar, Viego, Zoe, Evelyn. I feel like Evelyn's not right. Did you get that wrong, baby? And
Maybe.
Orange for the Nami. But regardless, it doesn't matter. Oh yes, it was Ezreal for Rocks.
Hmm.
But it's all good. these are the most played champions on RPG. Not necessarily their mains. A lot of these people sometimes like practice champions in solo queue that they are not necessarily favored of. But regardless, we are into the game. I believe we've finished
Just about to load in.
our delay. We should get into game shortly. But yeah, you've got your pick is TMU, my pick is UFT. Let's find out which one of us is right and which one of these teams will be winning the first game of this best of 5 semifinals for CLOL.
Here we load in. We see some friendly camaraderie from each of the teams. Fist bumps all around as we run into the level 1, and looks like each of the teams assumes their 5-point defense.
One thing that I kind of wanted TMU to actually take advantage of is their extremely good level 1. I mean, they've got a level 1 that is absolutely bonkers. If you asked me, like, what's the best level 1 team composition we could get, this would pretty much be it. You have Sion, who has obviously like his passive is very good level 1. On top of his Q, Decimating Smash, where you actually get to charge in a bush, is extraordinarily good. Lissandra, with her passive, also, as soon as she gets 1 kill, you get that Thrall, which like does insane damage, slows and everything. On top of that, you've got Ashe. All of these champions are extremely good level 1, so I kind of want them to take advantage of that and actually go for an invade, but it looks like they're just playing it safe.
A little bit of that friendly top lane dance.
Excellent skins on both of these, by the way. I love both of these skins. Lumberjack Scion, of course, the Bounce FFF's favorite skin. So he's in the know. He knows ball.
And rightly Canadian as well, I might add.
Absolutely, yes. Very patriotic, which in these times is very important. By the way.
Of course. The only other differences I see in that level 1 was Scary Deathman able to get an early jungle ward, able to scout where Destro would be moving in that Wukong. Pretty important for that first couple levels, knowing which lanes are going to be safe and which lanes are going to get ganked. But other than that, it looks like everyone seems to be relatively chill. Early trade in the top lane, taking some health out of Kasage.
It's
Definitely saying that wrong.
Yeah, it's a Naruto reference. It's Kazekage, which is like it's like a nerd reference. It's fine.
Yeah, sorry.
This is like some insane Naruto nerd stuff, which I'm privy to. But regardless, it's looking pretty relatively stable here in the early game, which is something that I didn't want to see, as I mentioned before. I kind of wish TMU took better advantage of their level 1, but regardless, as you said, they will get like a little bit of a jungle ward, but it looks like they actually managed to take it. It either died, yeah, it's died but at this point already. The good news is they already know which way he's pathing. Justin Destro here on the Wukong is pathing towards his bot side, and it's actually going to be matched by the Udyr here. And another ward will be actually dropped onto the Krugs as well. So they also know that Scary Deathman on the Udyr is pathing towards bot lane. When it comes to the 3v3 this early on into the game, I would still favor TMU. Just because I do think that the Ashe and the Udyr just provide better value in these early levels than Wukong and Tristana do. As looking for a binding, but not going to be able to find it. And Inta's here. This lane is pretty miserable. I haven't played it before. And it's pretty miserable. You are completely outranged by the Hui, and you are also outscaled by the Hui, so it feels pretty bad. There's a little bit of a gank coming in here though. Scary Deathman finds the stun. Flash W is going to be the follow-up. Persis still has the flash. He's going to hold on to it for a very long time, and that's going to be his mistake. It's going to be first blood going over to TMU.
See, while you were explaining how terrible of a lane it was for Cassandra, I was just thinking about the fact that, as we have a fight here, maybe I can hold off on that. Sion looking for the death trade. Good death, as Alice would say. Trading his life for Pragma's flash. Seemingly not that bad, as he's still able to catch all of the minions, get that push off. Still, I would say, relatively neutral in terms of power differential, while Wukong is still able to exercise some of that pressure difference and take some of his top camps.
Yeah, it would be a good death if not for the fact that this Wukong actually is able to take the Gromp off of Scary Deathman because of his death. He pushes away Scary Deathman from his jungle and is able to take it's just one camp, so it's not that big of a deal. But still, you don't really want to... You know, Udyr does love to clear his camps. Like, he's a champion that just full clears, really wants to get to like that first item spike. And it looks like he's going for like an AP variation. I'm not totally sure exactly what the Udyr build is these days. But yeah, it's an okay dive, I think. Fighting a little bit more, it's going to be traded kind of back and forth. It doesn't look like anything too crazy is going to happen yet. Meanwhile, the Udyr here is on the bot side. They might be looking for a gank here. They are pushed pretty far into the lane. No Black Shields quite yet. Scary Deathman is going to get stunned though. Black Shields comes out. Just going to flash over the wall. And that's going to be the exchange in the bot lane.
Well, as things start to heat up in this early game here, you can see quite a few summoners being used on the side of U of T. Whereas the gold is very, very even, you can see not the same number of summoners being used on the side of TMU. And where they are used, it's being used for aggressive purposes. It's much less likely that Hwei is able to get that that all-in ability as a Lissandra Flash or Ultimate as it just comes up now. So I'd be interested to see if U of T is able to flex some agency and maybe move the pressure into their hands as TMU is starting the dragon and securing it. First objective of the game.
The control that they had in the bot lane with... Well, for one, their Ashe is doing relatively well just in general, but on top of that, with the gank that they received, the extra help, they were able to push the wave, force the enemy bot lane to recall, or excuse me, UFT's bot lane to recall, which means that they have priority for Drake, and they were able to get that. Obviously, it will be traded for the grubs by UFT. Very common now these days to basically just trade on equivalent sides of the map for Drake for 3 grubs. Has been happening pretty much for months now. As the Sion 20th Kazakage, he's going to get bothered by the Ornn while he's proxying and will just use his ultimate to get out. And it seems like 20th Kazakage is perhaps a student of the Baus, proxying. I will say he does have a Doran's item, which is a big no-no according to our prophet. I have no clue why he hates Doran's items so much, but he hates them. But regardless, he's just gonna walk back to lane, and he'll be totally okay. Relatively slow early game for now, and I have to say, I do think that this favors UFT's team composition, as I mentioned earlier. I really think that TMU need to force like some kind of play as soon as possible. I think they should just try and keep going for these plays. Level 6 on the bot lane is going to be a big one. Having access to that Ashe arrow as well as the charm from Rakan is going to make it a lot easier to try and force some plays in the bot lane, and maybe perhaps even a roam with the Lissandra. As yep, so far so good, relatively slow. The most action we've seen is in the top lane, and Pragma, he's continuing this trend as 20 Kazakage will flash out. Pragma also excuse me, it was actually Justin Destro that used his flash. 20 Kazakage might die here on the dive. Gets made smash. Finds Wukong. Pragma is tanking the turret. Justin Destro is going to go in for the kill. It's a relatively easy dive here. As Pragma, don't walk back into that turret, man. I don't know what that was. I have no clue why he walked back into the turret. I don't know. But he will get executed regardless, which is lucky.
Big arrow.
As the Ashe arrow, looking for the Hwei. Not going to be able to find it. Hermes was in danger there. Flash still not available for him, so he couldn't have flashed it. Meanwhile, Scary Deathman might be looking for a gank, but now there's no enchantment to push the arrow. Now Tomori, though, is going to go for the slows instead. Rock Spray, he still has access to the jump, but he's going to use it. Morgana ultimate is going to be used, doesn't find a stun. As Morgana doesn't have flash, so it's going to be a very easy kill here. Successful gank for TMU.
And that's sort of what I was talking about in the pre-game, whereas Ashe had used her ultimate. They seemingly used their resources to be able to commit the all-in, but still anyways they're able to catch that Morgana off guard, as Black Shield's only able to save one person, and they're able to get that kill seemingly for free. No summoners used on the side of TMU, and the very expensive trade top lane is neutralized by a similar trade in the bot lane. Putting some more power in the hands of who they really wanted, that Ashe, who can get that damage out in front. As we see something brewing up in the mid lane once again, that roam on the Rakan becoming more potent as the game goes on, as he's able to get access to his ultimate, able to use those summoners across the map and potentially put his team ahead rather than just Ashe.
Yeah, I mean, it's they're looking for the second set of grubs, right? That's kind of the objective that they're looking at. As Root is going to be able to find the Ashe here. Channel Crystal Arrow is going to be used, but it's going to be black shielded. The exhaust, though, is very solid against this Tristana. Staying down pretty low. There's going to be an exchange of summoners. Rock Spray is very low, though. He has to go for a recall now. No way he can stay in lane with this amount of HP. And there's a mistake, actually, that happened earlier. As we're going to have to talk about that later, because the second set of grubs is spawning, and it looks like UFT want this fight. The Ornament is going to be called. One knockup, two knockups. It's a bounce castle here. And it's going to be the Scion going to be the first to fall. Now trying to kite away from this very scary Scion. It's actually the Udyr that's going to be taking the shutdown onto the Wukong. Extreme Deathman in a 1v1 situation, but it doesn't matter. Massive damage from the Ornn here, as somehow the entire team is here now, and this Wukong is like 1 HP and is just immediately going to die. Quickness is the fastest way to die, apparently, for TMU, as UFT will be taking this fight. And this is a problem that has already started. We mentioned it in draft, and it's only getting worse. This Ornn is actually completely unkillable. And on top of that, he's actually starting to do quite a bit of damage. 20th Kazakage here, he's going to try and bother him. But he just can't. He can't kill him. So he's just going to clear the way.
Yep. And it's, you mentioned he's doing quite a bit of damage. It's not exactly the highest skill cap damage either. It's quite literally just click on them and let your Sunfire do all the talking. So you see Udyr trying to re-engage here on that long
Flash
fight.
W, they find the first kill. Wukong is already gone. Flash Ow. The Black Shield is used as well. The Enchanted Crystal Arrow goes wide. Bernie's here in orange. They're trying to run away, but it's going to be a kill. Again, for TMU Blue here. And now this Ornn, though, we've seen completely unkillable. Can he die? The answer to that, in my opinion, is absolutely the heck not. 20th Kazakage is trying to run away, but Tristana is here now. The bomb is being put on top of his forehead. And he finds a knock-up. It's a stun. It's a root. So much crowd control coming out for UFT. It means that they find a return kill. And this set of grubs still unclaimed by either team.
Yeah, interesting decision-making from either team. Prey and their support choosing to move up top lane, whereas only Jay chose to roam, and Tomari staying in the bot lane, securing those plates. I assume in hopes of getting themselves ahead rather than their team, being a little bit selfish there. In where they could have offered their only option for their team's damage, as you mentioned earlier.
Yeah, and you can see already that TMU here are getting pushed out of their jungle. They can't access their own camps. Wukong is on the second set of grubs, which means that there's going to be 6 grubs for the side of UFT. TMU will be taking the Drake, though, in exchange.
Similarly, it looks like UFT's bot lane is swapped with mid, looking to exert some extra pressure as
the mid lane. Rock's taking a lot of damage as Morgana is about to die as well. The trade of damage, excuse me, means that TMU have to back off. The Dragon was taken by TMU. Hermes is now running away from this Udyr, doing quite a bit of damage. The Enchanted Crystal Arrow lands as well. The Binding won't, and it's going to be another kill going over to TMU Blue here off the side of the Dragon. And I don't think that positioning was necessary from the Quay at all.
Yeah, definitely. Just walking into wards that TMU had placed earlier. Definitely unforced error on the side of UFT. See if they can fix some of these issues that seem to be plaguing them, as Scion looks to push an even extra wave with that ulti, get a free back off.
Yep. I was half expecting him to ult the turret just for damage.
Yeah, same.
I think he started ulting just to run away, and then he was like, wait, I can probably hit this turret, but he did not drift hard enough. He's not a Drift Master, so he's just gonna go away. He has the Titanic Hydra now, which should just make it so that his wave clear is pretty much entirely non-interactive. And even if he dies, he'll one-shot the wave. As this bot lane looking relatively favored towards the Ashe, but now Roxbury has access to the Collector, which is a very interesting item choice in the sense that I don't like it at all. To be completely honest with you, just to put it, simply into simple words, Collector is good on Tristana, just not in this game in particular, because you have a lot of targets that will build armor this game, and a lot of hit points as well. So I feel like the more traditional kind of the more quick blades LDR build, which is currently like very popular amongst pretty much any marksman, maybe would have been better. Regardless,
definitely.
Yeah, they'll be pushing into the bot lane, finding lands, but nothing too special. And for now, I have to reiterate the same question to you, Ethan. Who is going to kill this Ornn?
Well, I think the issue here is who has to kill the Ornn. Because as Sion is able to pull this pressure, like you mentioned, with a Titanic Hydra, he's able to keep up CS, keep up tower pressure. If you're looking at those numbers down the bottom and the health of the towers,
teleport. But I don't think anything's going to happen.
Comes of it. As I was saying, while Ornn is 4 kills up and Sion is 4 deaths down, the lane is still very much even, and if anything, Sion is able to exert that pressure in the top lane while U of T is exerting the pressure in the bot lane, sort of the flip side of what you would expect in terms of fighting. We see it here. Fight breakout
being used by the Hui. Intez doesn't have access to the enchanted tomb. He already used it. Sorry, not a tomb, frozen tomb, something like that.
Yeah, you're right.
Regardless, it's going to be Hermes here pushing into the mid lane, and he's taking the first turret. He's kind of baiting the Lissandra into picking a fight with him because the Wukong is nearby. Meanwhile, flashed away by Pragma. He's just going to walk it out, but it's going to be a flash they use here. And maybe the answer all along to who is going to kill the Ornn is just a Sion.
Yep. I do believe still, if he's able to hold him top lane long enough,
they're going to find the Ashe. This Ashe is just completely dead. They're going to give the kill to the Hui. Get a shutdown here. And if you could press tab, Zealand, just so we can see the items. Thank you. Yeah, the items are relatively similar. The gold is still very, very close, 17 minutes into the game. And it's going to be... It's the red buff now, though. We're looking for a skirmish. Justin Destro, though. The situation now that the Hui is here. They're just going to find a binding and walk it out. The red is going to be taken by no one, I don't think. I don't think they were fighting over the red. Regardless, Sion now, he's starting to scale, so maybe he's the one that's going to take down the Ornn.
Yeah, and he's definitely able to at least pull him top lane, considering U of T only have 2 options of teleport, and Hui not that great into Sion, as far as I know. Ornn picks up yet another burn item in form of that Unending Despair, upgraded Unending Despair, I might add. However, I will note one thing, something that you said was a sin in the early game, choosing to pick up those ninja tabbies, or I've forgotten their new name.
Steel caps, yep.
Steel caps instead of the mercurial treads. Interesting decision.
Though now here in the mid lane, we've got a fight already brewing for the 3rd dragon of the game. An engage by the Lissandra finds a little bit of crowd control. The damage back in the Wukong, it's a flash out. The Morgana is already dead. The charming onto Justin Destro, though, it's a double kill already for TMU Blue. This is a pretty easy team fight. Find the first target. Nice engage by the Lissandra. And it's going to be TMU Blue now finding their 3rd dragon of the game.
Yeah, and while that was happening in the bot lane, it looks like top lane had a little bit of a scuffle with Pragma's Ornn ult being used, and Kasakage not really spending anything, being able to get out of that kerfuffle for free. Able to sit under a tower, looks like, farm up a little more gold, and let his team do the talking.
The UFT are going to be looking for the trade with Blade here onto the top side. They're going to take the turret first, and then the Sion. It's an easy play. And
good
it's
little...
not a worth one. It's not a good death. You're giving a turret as well as a kill to Tristana. It's not exactly what you want to do. You know that they're probably going to be looking for a trade play onto the top side because they just lost the dragon. But regardless, it's going to be a little bit of trade. You can see that UFT is ahead in gold. However, they are on a timer now because there's only one Drake left before TMU Blue get the soul.
Some interesting rotations I'd like to note as well. The sort of first game vibes of a series in which both teams are not exactly at their tip-top form, falling to some things that you might be expected to anticipate considering the skill level of both teams. Other than that, some good opportunities being taken.
He used his jump, but he'll be fine. He's backed up by his team. The Avengers are here to protect Tristana, despite the fact that she just used her jump in front of no one. She does have her Infinity Edge now, as well as an upgraded Collector, so regardless of the fact that I do think her build is slightly not as optimal as it could have been, it's still going to be doing a lot of damage, especially onto the carries. So I'm not going to be too worried about that. The Arakahan has now spawned. And it looks like both teams are kind of posturing for it. Hermes doesn't have the teleport quite yet, but he'll have it in a second. And it's UFT that have control over the river for now.
Looks like Udyr's trying to make some plays, get some early vision with that 6 kills in his pocket. Very much the base of TMU's agency here. Looks like Intez doing a little bit of scouting in the map. Safe under his tower.
He'll be completely fine. And the game comes to like a little bit of a standstill. Seems like neither teams are willing to pull the trigger on the Archon quite yet. Baron isn't up yet. Remember, it spawns at 25 minutes now. The Scion is overextended. No backup. So he will die. Why not? You know, you're 0-5. I don't believe you're worth that much gold anyways at this point. So it doesn't matter too much. As the Worth Gold is going to be used into the mid lane, it will just chip away at the outer turret and won't take it down. And that's kind of the power that you get with 0 grubs, right? It's pretty difficult to take these turrets, especially into wave clearing mages like Quay. It's pretty difficult.
Definitely. Kill doesn't come with that much importance. I mean, of course, it's nice to have that extra gold in your pocket, but looks like UFT unwilling to begin that Otacon or really capture any neutral objectives in their favor while this Scion timer ticks down. Or unable just to walk in the river, give him the old what for.
Pragma here on the Orin posturing as if his team was behind him. Even though it wasn't. Very nice fake pressure, as we call it in the game. Obviously, it's a very risky move. This was a move specialized by Damwon Kia back in the first Worlds win. They were very, very good at fake pressuring. It was Canyon especially that was really good at it. He would constantly fake that his team was behind him, even though it wasn't. And obviously, you know, at that level, a mistake means that you lose Worlds. So the nerves on these people when they're like, wait, this guy is like, is he like trolling her? Is he like, you know, is he messing with us? That amount of doubt can like really mess up your game. However, this isn't Downward Key, obviously, but it still worked for now. This Orin is far overextended. He's going to be making the same mistake that the Scion made earlier. The chance the Crystal Arrow is going to go wide, but so is the Orin Horn. And given the 1v4 situation, so no matter how tanky he is, eventually he will die, and there's no way out. That is one thing that you cannot do against this TMU Blue, is you cannot run. The slows, the movement speed from everyone on the team makes it so that you just cannot run away. It will be traded against the tier 2 in the mid lane, as well as potentially they're looking for even more into the bot side, but I don't think they'll be able to find it.
Some very key decision making happening at this point here as we see pings coming down on Otacon in the top lane, whereas UFT seems to be pinging the dragon instead. It's like they're opting to take that Otacon and give the dragon in the bot lane an interesting decision, but one of them seem to be making quite confidently as Ashe follows up in that top lane, and they look to be giving another tower in the bot. Incredibly gold inefficient is what I would name that, considering they also gave up a tier 2 in the mid lane. A lot of pressure being given, and almost 2,000 gold in towers being thrown into the hands of U of T. Whether you can make that Otacon worthwhile or not, the Scion gets a pick almost on the...
That was questionable. That was not calculated. That was not calculated. Yeah, they're going to be able to take the second turret here. Scion not having the ultimate means that they most likely will be able to get out, even if they slow chase. As I said, they overextended a little bit onto the Ornn. It takes a little bit too long to kill him. And it takes a little bit too many people as well, which means that they have to give up the Drake. But the good news is they traded for the Otacon, and that's something that you can do now that you have 3 dragons. You can freely trade that 4th dragon over and over again for something on the other side of the map. It's like it's like you got $20 and you exchange it for a bacon, egg, and cheese. Like it's just how it works. In this case, the bacon, egg, and cheese is the Otacon buff, which it was the roses, so you get a bunch of XP. And combat stats, I believe. No, is it? No, I think it's just XP and like something adaptive force or something. I don't exactly remember what it gives. Oh, it buffs the already existing buffs that you have. Right. So yeah, all of those dragons that they already have are going to be slightly buffed. If they get the soul eventually, it will also be buffed. So it's a pretty strong thing to have. So even though they don't get the soul, they can get the soul in 5 minutes, and in the meantime, they are buffed, guys. We're looking for a fight. Rock Spray dives straight into the pack line, but that might have been a mistake. The exhaust means that the Asher is still very healthy. He's going to go down. The Udyr, though, is taking a lot of damage on the way back as well. It's a shutdown. The Wukong is absolutely unleashed. The second cycle means it's a triple kill. I'm dead. Meanwhile, on the back line, looking for the Morgana. I'm not going to be able to find it. Brilliant Kazakage is the only one left alive, and my guy, you are not in Naruto. You are not the protagonist of this story, because it's you of T who take the team fight and the Baron.
Yeah, an incredibly definitive fight that started somewhat questionably, as you mentioned. Tristana using that Malphite ultimate on her W to jump right into their backline, seemingly to self-destruct, but in the end, it was the diversity of U of T, that breadth of damage that isn't just stemming, for example, in the Ashe in the hands of TMU, able to just run right over TMU entirely once their health bars got low enough, and secure that Baron for themselves. And now that they've gotten a Baron, they've gotten a Dragon, 3 Grubs, it looks like momentum is beginning to sway in the hands of U of T. They're now 7,000, almost 7,000 gold up, only 5 kills, but quite a few objectives. This is the pressure that good team play and macro affords you when you're able to move as a team, make decisions as a team. It's the team that ends up winning. Any further notes?
Yeah, that was what I like to call an int move, to put it very blatantly. You just can't do that, right? As a Tristana, you just can't jump on top of the forehead of the enemy team knowing that they have an exhaust. Even if they didn't have exhaust, that was most likely not the right move, but especially because they have an exhaust, it makes it so that even if you dive in and try to one-shot the enemy carry, you just won't be able to. And you can notice that this Ashe actually still has resummoners. She didn't even have to use them in this fight to survive. And without the Tristana, it becomes significantly more difficult to kill the Udyr and the Scion without that kind of like consistent damage. It's a little bit more difficult. But regardless of that, regardless of the fact of like how into that felt as a move, it doesn't matter, just because, as I mentioned before into the pregame, there still is very little damage on the side of TMU. This Wukong was full HP by the end of the fight. This Ashe has like such a hard time hitting him. He goes invisible, he goes into his W, he knocks everyone up, he can just run over the back line. And I think maybe one of the things that was kind of the curse for TMU in that team fight, or the reason why it was so hard, is because of the positioning. You cannot let this Wukong go into your backline unchecked and destroy your Ashe. Your Ashe is like your only hope of ever like taking down Wukong or the Ornn or any of these tanks. So you have to protect her. You cannot dive onto the enemy backline and ignore your own carries as TMU. looking for a potential pick here. The Channel Crusader is going to be dodged away. Tier 2 in the top lane is being taken out. Root is found onto the Udyr, but again, this is a wet noodle fight. It's but eventually the Udyr will go down. Sion doing quite a decent amount of damage, but I just don't think that he has the damage to take anyone down, as he will die. And UFC will also be able to fight the dragon. And now it definitely feels like the game has full-on swung in favor of UFC.
Yeah, I hate to say when you're right, but you're right. the difficulties that TMU seem to have with their composition are being amplified the later and later they get into this game. The inability to actually get picks with their pick comp seems to be a serious drawback as Frey gets caught out
They have a
instead.
numbers advantage here. It's way too ambitious here by UFT. You're 2v3. Why are you even here? The clone is going to be used to flash away. The stasis, it's a shutdown for TMU. And UFT, all you had to do was play with numbers. You had Baron. You have a gold advantage. You have full control over this game. Just wait.
Yeah, a real amateur mistake here as they know where the rest of the team are. They've gotten that numbers advantage. They simply have to play with it, and they instead choose to get overconfident. Once again, Prey caught out of position, getting hit by that Lissandra W, hit by all that CC, taken out of the fight, and eventually taken out of life itself. As TMU is able to muster a defense here and maybe potentially muster a comeback. Now that the gold lead has been shrunk once again down to 4,000, 5,000 gold-ish. And lanes are able to come back to their natural positions. Sion able to push in the bot lane. No neutral objectives are up quite yet, so it looks like both teams are more than willing to settle for where they are right now and see if they can press for further advantages once some neutral objectives spawn.
Yeah, we've got a little bit of a breather as we're waiting for the next objective spawn, which is going to be the Baron in 1 minute. And I do think that both teams need to fight for it. UFT are obviously still in control of the game, so they 100% will be on there. And you can see that they're already setting up vision. They have quite a decent line of vision here. You can see the pink in that banana bush as well as some yellows a little bit further into the jungle. It means that they have a pretty good setup here. And it's very hard for TMU to actually walk in, despite the fact that they have a relatively tanky front line. These bindings from the Morgana are actually going to matter. Every time you walk into a bush, or you walk into a choke point, you throw in a cage, you stun the Sion for like a solid 2 seconds or however long it is. It's going to be pretty annoying. And the good news for UFT is, despite the fact that they threw their lead a little bit in the bot lane, is that they got a very crucial summoner, the Flash from Lissandra. But without the flash, this Lissandra engage is significantly more telegraphed. You can see the E on the ground, and you can space it. So it's going to be significantly more difficult for her to find a lot of value the same way that she has in some previous team fights and in that bot lane, as it looks like UFC are going to be looking for this second turret on the top side, which will go to their side uncontested. Which I think is a little bit of a mistake because, well, they don't have a Baron, so they probably could have defended that. But regardless, the Baron is on the eyes of UFT, and it's going to be started. The Hawk Shot here gives a little bit of vision to TMU. They know it's going down, and they want to fight it. The teleport is coming in from the Sion. UFT forced that out. They're actually going to be looking for a pick up to Lissandra immediately. I don't think that bomb is going to take her down, though. She survives barely. Meanwhile, it's a 4v4. They're looking for Lock's Prey. He is going to die. Khan is just going to be traded back and forth here. Meanwhile, Scary Deathman, though, they're going to be taking down Ernie's with the Ash. It's 3v2 now. Justin Destro and Pragma are the only ones left onto UFT. Are they going to be able to find the Ash? They know that she's the only one that's going to be doing damage, but he's kiting so hard. She's going to be able to glide on top of UFT. Now it's only Pragma left. Scary Deathman and 20th Kazekage should be able to make work of this Sion, or excuse me, of this Horn eventually. It's taking a very long time. They will be able to take it eventually, and UFT, they overplay their hand once again, and they give TMU a chance to get back into this one.
Yeah, very interesting positioning from both teams. It seems like the positioning errors made by TMU last team fight are in turn made by UFT this team fight, being too clumped up, too caught out by some of these abilities that, like people to be in one situated area. The Lysandra, for example, the Udyr, lots of AoE that they can soak up that single target damage and deal back it 4 or 5-fold in terms of their radius of damage. Gold swinging back almost even as TMU are able to secure that Baron in an incredibly decisive fight that seems to be being played out in the next couple seconds as Dragon spawns, potentially Dragon Soul for TMU here. Both teams posture as the Ornn teleport comes in.
Yep. Both teams are posturing. It looks like UT are going to be able to get it for free. But remember, TMU don't care.
Yeah.
They have the Baron, and they're just going to be sending it straight down the mid lane. Khan is actually going to cancel some of these recalls. Morgana and Quay are going to be able to go, but they're looking just for the end. If the Pounce special, they're going to be able to find damage off to both of these turrets. It's a base race now. The stun from Morgana isn't going to be able to be stunned. Justin Depp is looking for the Ashe. He's going to be able to find it. The Nexus is going down very low, but there's no one to kill this Udyr, and it's TMU Blue that are going to be able to find game one.
Wow, what an explosive end, decided by the key macro decisions that I thought were highlighting U of T strength end up being their defeat. What an amazing finish to that game one.
Yeah, I mean, this is what 3 Drakes gets you, right? You're able to trade that for pretty much the game. They have the Baron, they have a Sion and an Udyr, which are, you know, the classic El Truco open the gates backdoor. Like,
Yep.
I've played against Trick 2G before, and I can tell you that stuff is annoying as hell. But he, you know, there's a reason why it works and why he's able to reach relatively high elo every time. It's because people make macro mistakes all the time. And congratulations, at least for TMU, for realizing this was a mistake. I will say, I think we did see. Congratulations on your win, by the way, Ethan. You were right. You were right. But I do think that regardless of the fact that you ended up being right, at least in some aspect, we did see like some of the issues with their team fighting composition quite a lot. It was difficult for them to take a lot of fights. The only reason why this game isn't U of T's, to be clear, is because U of T threw twice in a row. Their team fighting was a little split at that Baron. The Hui was in one position and the Tristana was in the other, and that made it very easy for TMU to basically like go on one. The Lysandra managed to buy a lot of time so they could kill the Hui onto the backside. Meanwhile, TMU was like fighting, and then they regrouped and then crushed UFT. Kind of like split them in like a very Napoleonic way of fighting. But regardless, that's going to be game one going over to TMU. The Toronto beef has just started. This is game one of a best of 5 series, and we will be back with game number 2. And welcome back. We have a little bit of time before game 2 and the draft starts. But I think what would be useful is to have a little bit of a check-in as to how game 1 went in the first place. How do we feel after kind of watching these two teams battle it out? The Toronto beef is engaged now. What are like our first impressions from both of these teams? What do you think, Ethan?
Yeah, thanks, Natural. I thought I thought there were some interesting ideas from both teams, some interesting executions. I think it's that issue of execution itself that really came into the fold towards the end of that game. We saw both teams being relatively tentative in their decision makings, in their choices to be aggressive in the early game, and that allowed for quite a neutral play throughout the first 10 minutes. But after that, it seemed like all hell broke loose. Both teams making some good decisions and some bad decisions. U of T were able to press their lead in a fairly orderly manner, but after that 20-minute mark, you saw it pretty much all came crumbling down as they threw one lead after another. After their very first winning team fight, they couldn't seem to make any decisions that really stuck for them, even though they seemed to be making the right macro movements. It wasn't the final execution. I remember that fight in the bot lane, that 2v3, the fight around Baron. I mean, it's really that specifics that make the difference when you're not able to get the numbers advantage. You're not even able to get an equal numbers. You really put yourself at a disadvantage when you don't have to be. If you remember, I remember noting that I think U of T had a 7,000, 8,000 gold lead. You really shouldn't be choosing to take any of these fights down. You're at no risk. You've got an Ornn on your team. You're not being outscaled. You've got a good comp for mid to late game. You don't have to be forced into making these errors, and yet you are. Really, unforced error is the word I would use for a lot of these decisions that ended up losing them the game, including the final macro decision to take that dragon instead of all turning to back. Yeah, I think I'd be looking to see if U of T can shore up some of these mistakes and capitalize on some of the other team's mistakes themselves. What do you think, Natural?
That was a pretty good recap, I would say. I definitely think that, as you said, unforced error kind of feels like the name of the game for U of T in that game 1. Throwing their lead on the bot side by taking a 2v3 that they did not need to take. Then some positioning mistakes as well. I think in a lot of the team fights that we've seen, it's looking pretty brutal as far as positioning goes for U of T, which is interesting considering the fact that, you know, when you're playing an AD carry like Tristana, you generally don't think that positioning is going to be that much of an issue because you do have that kind of like get out of jail free card with the rocket jump. But yeah, unfortunately, just despite all this, a little bit hard on the positioning for UFT. Some unforced errors on their side as well. But I think very impressive and respectable performance by TMU as well. I mean, they've made the right call in a lot of these team fights. They make like the right decision. They commit to it. And on a macro level, when they saw the fact that UFT were all 5 on Dragon, they have Baron. They correctly identify that they have a Scion and Udyr, which are very slow to be stopped when they're pushing onto your Nexus. They go for it. They take the chance. They send the recon to cancel recalls. It's a good decision. And they're able to win the game off of it. So props to TMU for kind of taking for seeing the crack in UFT's armor and going straight through it. But it is on UFT's, I will say, on UFT's responsibility to open that armor in the first place. It is their fault that there was a crack in their armor in the first place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and definitely after they had been so disciplined up until that point, taking those tier 2s in the ways that you're meant to, getting a man advantage and then pressuring the side lane. If you've got those double TPs on Hui and on Ornn, you've got really no reason why you should be able to give up, especially a win through the mid lane, allowing that tier 2 inhibitor and then finally those Nexus towers to go down. It really shows the difference in, I would like to say, guile for TMU to be able to make those snap decisions like you mentioned it around Dragon. And ultimately, the only decision that really matters, it doesn't matter if you're 20, 30, 40,000 gold behind. If you get that Nexus destruction, you win the game. It's really that simple.
As we're well into draft now, first phase of bans and picks has been completed. The bans on the side of TMU is going to be various Ornn and Xin, and on UFT it's going to be Thresh, Tarek, Graves, and Lissandra. We've got a first set of picks that's already pretty interesting. Lucian, Nami, Vaya going to be the pick here for UFT. Lucian, Nami, very strong bot lane. And I believe... am I getting the? I am getting this right? It is a UFT on red side. Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Just kidding.
Yeah, I believe they didn't opt for a side swap, which is very interesting considering the strengths and the weaknesses both teams seem to have exemplified. I'd be interested to see whether or not they believe their the way that they conducted the game in the previous game was correct for them, whether they want to sharpen some things up, whether they thought their bot lane was truly their weakness in the end, or whether they seem like they need to do something different altogether, completely freshen up the roster and maybe take some of those comfort picks that were banned from last game into this game and shake things up.
Hey, I will say for now, I like UFT's draft quite a little bit. Again, Vi Ahri, very popular combination. You Vi ult someone, you Ahri ult someone, you charm them, you one tap them. It's a very popular combination, very strong 2v2. Level 6 is very, very strong. On top of that, you got a Lucian Nami, which can grant you priority in bot lane as well as in mid lane throughout the entirety of the game. TMU, though, they're answering with a Braum Corki, which is, I like Braum. It's a very popular champion, and it has a lot of value into these dive compositions. When you have a Vi and Ahri, you're able to put up that wall, put up that shield, you're blocking a lot of these bullets, and on top of that, you're escorting your AD carry. You're just standing right on top of him, and even if the Vi does manage to find an ult onto him, all it takes is 3 autos if you land a Q or an auto. That's all it takes for you to be stunned. It's very annoying. So it does feel like, to me, UFT are opting for a full dive composition. Like, okay, I don't know what happened that first game. We kind of hinted it, but this time we can just all press R and it'll work out. We press R on one target and they are gonna die for sure. And meanwhile, TMU are like, okay, you want to press R? Sure, come on in here, baby. We're waiting for you. You've got a Braum, you've got a Corki that can use the Valkyrie to kind of like run away. You've got a Nico, which is like, oh yeah, you want to go in as 5? Let me just press R and like I'll root you. On top of the Wukong and the Silent, obviously, who are like perfectly happy with a dive composition just running into them. So it kind of feels like we're once again getting this team composition of unstoppable force, unmovable object. And this time, I will say, I do think that, you know, this time I do think TMU actually have damage. I know that they have a Corki, Wukong, and Nico on their side. Which comp do you favor?
That's another good question, and I feel a little questionable from both sides, considering that they seem to have followed through quite intently on what they believe their winning aspect of their team comps will be. Just off of memory, I think that U of T was lacking in that proper team fight execution, and considering they've picked that team fight execution comp, I would question whether or not they have the ability to carry out those high mechanical plays, maybe working around the Braum, being able to note where and where Nico isn't so that you're able to catch out that sneaky ultimate that's so able to get those 5-man team fight wipes by themselves. So I think I would put onus on TMU this time to mess it up rather than being able to capture the opportunities that they failed to do last game. What do you think, Natural?
It's a very interesting way of putting it, but I feel like you haven't backed your horse in this race quite yet.
No, yeah, I'll put it on TMU. I think TMU's gonna win.
Okay. There you go. I can't let you go with a cop out answer now. Come on. Okay, TMU. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I mean, I do think that to some extent, this time UFT has like a more one-directional team composition. You know, you're going in, there's no going out. None of these champions are like, oh no, I'm not totally sure if I want to press R. Like, no, that's not happening, right? You've got a set. Yeah. That was the last pick that we didn't even mention. The pick that they've been waiting on. Their R5, their MasterCard, their trap card, if you will, is the set, which is a very interesting pick. Obviously, the damage that set does with his ultimate is it scales with the enemy's HP, right? It's a thing that like a Lee Sin kick, the tankier the person that you're ulting, the better. And in this case, you've got a Scion, perfect target. So I do think there's like a very large how do you say it? The set is definitely the X factor here, in my opinion, where it's like, depending on how much value you can get out of this pick, this is going to go either way. I'm going to back UFT once again. I feel like at this point, I've picked my horse. I like the way that they've drafted so far in both games. I think that despite the fact that they've got some misplays, I think they've got gumption. I can see the will and the power in UFT. So I'm gonna go and just back them up for this draft as well. As we should be getting into game very shortly. I do hope that UFT at the very least just pull back on the reins a little bit. You know, I think the last game they were doing so well. They had the game under control. All they had to do was just like let it chill for a bit. Let it chill for a bit. Excuse me. So let's hope that they can do that. And for TMU, let's hope that with a little bit more damage on their side, they can make a little bit more proactive plays. They don't have to just wait for UFT to make mistakes, as we're going to be getting into game here, Ethan. Game 2 of the semifinals of CLOL, UFT versus TMU. And you're once again betraying your own school, Ethan. I am just horrendous, truly.
I would like to note I am not putting any money on TMU winning or anything like that. I'm purely making judgments based on my League of Legends knowledge. Please don't kick me out. I'm almost graduated. Thank you.
Congratulations. I hope you graduate cleanly and with no issue.
Anyway, we seem to be getting into some of the same antics from last game with top lane facing off relatively passively. Pragma getting those sit-ups in. You know, those abs don't build themselves.
Exactly.
The 5-point defense comes into the fray.
Yep, relatively passive early game once again. I do wish that some of these teams just took some level 1 fights. I think level 1 fights are so fun.
Yeah, especially when you have a Scion.
Exactly. You have a Scion, you have a Braum, you have a Corki. Very solid level 1 champions. But instead, they're just going to be dancing onto each other, showing off their abs and their dance moves. Have you seen the new $500 site skin or whatever it is?
I have. He's got a phone, right?
Does he have a phone?
No, someone's taking a picture of him with a phone. Something about the splash art having a phone.
Weird. Interesting.
Not to get too into it.
Yeah, there's some world building in there. I don't know. Maybe it's just like an alternative us, you know? Anyways, let's not get too much into the lore. A little bit of fighting here into the bot lane. It is, like, both of these lanes are pretty, like, they do want to fight early game. Relatively hard, so I'm kind of excited to see if we're going to get any actual results out of these bot lane fights. It is going to be the Lucian Nami that get priority level 1, which, you know, you do have a range advantage, so it does make sense. And they're going to be able to get that wave shoved in. Let's see if they're able to do anything with the pushback. Usually that's kind of how a lot of these lanes work in bot lane, right? You kind of like shove, when you have lane priority, you get priority over the lane, you get control over it, then you slow push it, you crash on wave 3, and then on pushback, your jungler is here. They're forced to walk into you further into the lane because your wave just shoved back, and then you're able to make a play. So let's see if they're able to coordinate that. Justin Dester on the Vi is pathing towards the bot side, and he should, theoretically speaking, be better in the 3v3, I think, against Wukong. But yeah, is there any particular role or player that you've been impressed by so far?
Yeah, I've really loved this top lane matchup. The Kasakage, as you mentioned, seems to be really coming into his own in that Scion, able to get through both ban phases and soak up such an incredible amount of pressure in terms of the power that we saw in the Ornn last game, and hopefully in this set right now. It's very important to be able to at least go even in terms of health, as we see a trade coming in there. Not quite fully going in the favor of Pragma. He still gets caught by that charged up Q. Flashes in!
The 1-2 is more than enough for the first blood here. Very well played by Pragma. I didn't see the angle, but he did, and he was right. He did. I believe his W was still on cooldown, but I think with the Q of set, you do get that second empowered auto attack that deals quite a bit of damage. So he's going to be able to take the first blood here, and the trap card that I mentioned earlier on into the draft for now is doing pretty well. Scary Deathman here. He's trying to find the return kill, but he's close enough to return. And he's not going to be able to take the kill. And Pragma still has his teleport, so he's drilling.
Yeah, I will say, I feel bad for imbuing the caster curse right there, as just as I was complimenting Kasakage, he gets first blooded in the top lane. But he still has options, as you know. Scion very well scales into the late game, even if he's using his body weight against him in that set matchup. I still see potential in this Scion pick. Still opting for that Doran's shield. Still relatively even in CS. I think this Vi coming up, we might see a decisive decision made in the top lane. He is sighted. I think he can just walk himself out.
Yeah, he's chilling.
Yeah.
No gank to be found here. They weren't able to find a gank on the bot lane either with the priority that they had. They won't be able to set out for a Vi gank there either. In the mid lane, it's Intez who is the first to recall and use the teleport. So Ermi's here, has the teleport advantage. So that's going to be pretty nice. He also has like a little bit of an XP advantage and an HP advantage. It looks like he's doing pretty well in this lane so far. There's this new... Oh, no, excuse me. Yep, I just got tricked. I got fooled. I got tricked. I forgot it's a Nico. There's this new Ari build that's been popping up recently. I don't know if you've seen it. Kind of like an off-tank build with ROA.
Interesting.
Very, very annoying. Yeah, no cooldown reduction on that build, but quite annoying to deal with. instead of going like the usual Malignants, you go Rod of Ages into, I believe it's the Omnivamp AP item. I always forget the name. Riftmaker, excuse me.
Yeah.
No, not Riftmaker. What is it called? I forgot. Either way, it's going to be the first Dragon Gear that's going to be taken by UFC.
Yeah, and I'd be definitely interested to see whether we see that build come out in Ari, considering their team is made up of essentially only bruisers and squishies. If you think about the comparison between the set and the Scion, one of them is definitely the bigger man come 20 or 30 minutes, and whether or not you hit that suplex, the ulti is we see a dive potentially coming out in the bot lane.
Yep. It looks like UNT looked for a swap here. Nami's going to be taking one last turret shot. It's going to be the flashing by Justin Destro, but it's going to be traded by the Scion. This is perfectly fine if you're a UTM. You're like, okay, you're dove by Scion. You lost the flash for it, a heal on your Nami. You're gonna get a bunch of plates and stuff, but I mean, we don't particularly care. We got a set of grubs, so I think UTM are gonna be perfectly fine with that trade. Pragma, the good news for UFC is that they can't really dive the set, not with two people, so he's gonna be fine as well. He's just gonna be able to pick up some CS. But so far,
I will say,
relatively neutral.
Sorry, that is the sort of gameplay that a lot of teams seem to be abusing the past couple weeks and months, and partially the reason why lane swapping was completely abolished by Riot Games. I'm sure if you've noticed this in any of your games, anyone in the audience, but if you lane swap too early or enter a lane you're not really supposed to be, you'll be hit with a pretty sizable debuff, which reduces your damage to towers, gold from minions, and pretty much everything. But considering it's pretty late into the game, they're still able to pull this off, get some of the benefits of that cross-map pressure, as you were mentioning, with Scion able to trade into dives much better than that set, because of his passive, because of that revive that you get on death, and because of the high damage output that he has so early into the game. Scion is able to soak up some of that pressure, even 0-1 down and now 1-2 into the game, staying relatively even in terms of gold. Even though it seems like some tower planing has been sucked up in the top lane and in the bot lane by Prey. Kazakage is able to pick up that tempo, pick up that pressure, and continue on fighting.
Skirmish into the river here. This is a Nami, but Scared Deathman is actually going to flash away from the tidal wave as he realizes that he is not in a 1v1 situation anymore. As you mentioned, lane swaps cancelled by Riot Games. However, they still exist after minute 3, I believe, or 4 or something like that. And it seems like both teams are opting into it. They're swapping their top laners around. I'm not totally sure kind of what the idea was originally. I think the original idea was just that they wanted UMT wanted grubs, so they swapped their bot lane into top and put their Scion into bot lane. But now it's kind of not really sure what the comms are for why they're swapping. But regardless, Pragma here, 1v2 situation, is going to be able to find some decent damage with his W.
Oh, the teleport coming in from Ari.
2v2 situation. Hermes has access to the ultimate. He mixes the charm. It doesn't matter. Stop and assist is a pretty powerful tool. The Grateful Fisher won't find much. It's going to be 2 kills here going for UFT. The charm is going to hit, but I don't think there's any follow-up to be had. And UFT with the teleport play will be able to find 2 kills and more turret damage.
Yeah, not just 2 kills. Very important summoners as well on the side of UTM's support and ADC. Both flashes and exhausts used, as well as Brahm's ultimate, a key ability in shutting down some of these all-ins. But UTM doesn't seem to be able to get quite the trade they want from this Scion. He's forced to back off, and UFT's Roxy and Orange able to capitalize back on that pressure that they gotten, the kills in the bot lane, and push back in top lane, pushing even a further CS advantage. 20 CS almost. Yeah, 20 CS in favor of Lucian in comparison to Corki. It's not where you want to be.
Mm-hmm.
Not at all.
It feels like, once again, they do have a little bit of an advantage. It feels like they are more in control of the game than UTM, as I might have said UMT at one point, so I apologize for that. Prime here is doing perfectly fine on the set. He's taking damage, but he's still difficult to dive. He has the plated steel caps unlocked. He has all that grit stacked up, so even when you do a lot of damage, he just gets scarier. As both teams now are looking for the second drink of the game, spawning out. Intez is a little bit caught out here. He's going to use the Proto Belt to dodge out of the Aqua Prison. Both teams are posturing like they want to fight for this. Hermes is in top lane without a teleport, but so is the 20th Kazekage. So it's going to be a 4v4 situation if they opt into this fight. It has been started by Scary Deathman. If we could pan over to the dragon right now. He's just going to double you over the wall. Both teams are kind of not pulling the trigger quite yet. UFT have started it now, though. And UTM, they're trying to catch out the set. He is still very dangerous. He's going to suplex the bomb for the team. The Cyclone finds some crowd control. Dragon is going to be the first to die. The Pop Blossom finds 3. It's a very nice Sneeko ultimate. The Vive dashes into the back lines, trying to find Scary Deathman, but not going to be able to find it. And it's the stun after stun from the Braum. The unmovable object wins against the unstoppable force in this team fight. And it's UTM that's going to be able to take the fight.
Yeah, quite a decisive flip in the gold charts. If you take a look up top, while that dragon is important, second dragon out of 4, it's also incredibly important to be able to keep your team alive, as I'm sure you know. Those kills putting the gold back in favor of UTM. And as Sion is able to just keep pushing in that top lane, seems like things are swinging back into favor of UTM and out of U of T's hands. Quite similar to what we saw last game.
And I think the deal breaker in that team fight is the Pop Blossom. The angle from Intez on the Nico, he had access to the backline, he had an excellent flank, and he was able to find a 3-man Pop Blossom that really set up for the rest of the team to be able to kite away from their engage, find the Braum stuns, and give themselves some time to fight back against the dive kind of like one-shot potential that they had. And I do think that on top of that, you know, the angle from the set was a little off. I think the damage that he found was not exactly what UFT would have liked. As the Braum is not that tanky yet. He doesn't have that much HP, which means that the suplex doesn't do that damage either. But as you mentioned, it seems like in the top lane now, where before the set had like a decisive advantage in terms of the control of the lane, Sion does feel he's kind of hit the breaking point where now he doesn't really care that much.
Yeah. Doesn't take damage anymore. And especially with that Heartsteel, he's going to start wanting to take those fights, those short skirmishes, as we see here, as he's able to get a grass proc, get all the CS, and extra Heartsteel advantage, possibly if he's able to proc it. Set forced to walk up and take those punches blow for blow, and when one of you has quite a higher health pool and advantages to those punches, definitely don't want to be taking them, even as you get lower and lower, as you see Set here cowering under his towers. Sion is able to get a free recall, probably purchase some Swifties. I was about to say steel caps, but it is correct that Swifties offers a lot of extra movement at quite a small cost as compared to the steel caps here.
Indeed.
Plus, steel caps doesn't help with a lot of Set's true damage, which I'm sure he knows about.
That's true. As you could see earlier that UFT were fishing for something in the mid lane. They had Vi in the top brush and Ari in the bottom brush, and they were fishing for some kind of play onto the mid lane. That's kind of what you get with Illusion Nami. You get permanent priority over the mid lane just because the culling is such a strong ability. You can kind of just push people away. It's very similar to Lethality Varus in how it functions when once you swap your bot lane to mid. But regardless, they weren't able to find a pick. They weren't able to find a fight, as the tidal wave here is going to be used onto Intez. It does manage to find a target. The Pop Blossom only finds the Vi, and this is a very nice dive from UFT.
Well disciplined. doing exactly the opposite of what I was criticizing them in the early game, where they're taking good fights, as we see a counter dive in the mid lane, much less successful, much less disciplined. Some of those ultis coming out, I would say, too early to be able to catch Ari while she's able to ult out. You said a wet noodle fight happened in the top lane, not really any threat to either side, just trying to get their passives procced, get their extra grasp health. They can make a difference and potentially make a difference in this Herald fight that may or may not be happening, or even Dragon fight even later than that, spawning in 38 seconds. Both top laners should have teleport by then. Interested to see where these next fights pan out. I mean, gold has been moving towards even. It's not quite even, still somewhat in the hands of Toronto Metropolitan University.
UFT have vision control for now over the dragon. Hawker presumes is going to find Braum, but no follow-up damage. And the second dragon is actually... looks like both teams are going to contest it. The Scuttle Crab has been taken by UFT already. Both top laners do have access to the teleport, but it is good to note that both of them can also cancel each other's teleports. We'll have to see if they both opt into taking that or canceling each other. With UFT having control over the river, UTM pushes further into the mid lane, and now they're going to be able to walk into the river and establish their own vision, which is very nicely done. Kind of a turn-based game, as a lot of league analysts like to call it, where you just play for push and play for vision. As it looks like we might be looking for a fight in the mid lane here. We can pan over to that. The Pop Blossom is going to find just one target. Nami flashes away from the root, though. A lot of damage being given onto Justin Destro. Meanwhile, in the back line, it's Hermes onto the Ahri that finds the first kill. It's a shutdown. She's still very tanky. It finds another charm somehow onto the Corki. Beautiful charm finds a double kill for UFT. It's going to be a reset and a triple kill for her. Really managing to, you know, pass the needle through the eye of UTM here, and is going to be able to find the fight as well as like the third dragon of the game, it seems.
Yeah, Kazukage not willing to take that loss on the chin and instead chooses to show some aggression of his own, unable to capitalize on that, even dropping the ultimate and eventually backing. Yeah, incredibly decisive victory for UFT Ruby on this side, as they're able to make the mechanical decisions, the teamfight decisions, and ultimately the killing decisions that put them back in the lead in terms of gold, in terms of dragons, and even potentially in terms of towers here, as we see that pressure riling up once again. Back in the favor of UFT, very important as you see the Baron timer ticking down in the top right, something that both teams will have their eyes on once they get the strength to be able to make these team fights matter. Similarly, we see Otacon spawning in the bottom lane, making for another very decisive, very important objective for both teams to be able to secure. See some posturing in the top lane, as it looks like they want to, UFT want to get this Herald here, capitalize on all the objectives that they can. But is this another dragon situation? Are they leading themselves into some potentially poor positioning? Doesn't look like it, as all four characters in the top lane have their dashes available and are free to collect even more gold in the form of Scuttle Crab and Midwave.
They will be able to find the Rift Herald with the control that they have over the map. And I think the breaking point in that team fight was UTM. Oh, Sam should just be able to drift this one away. Needs to dodge away from. Rock Spray can try to stop it, but, you know, not the best idea to stop a charging Scion. UFT try to find a pick, but they don't find it. But as I was mentioning earlier, I feel like one of the problems in the last team fight for UTM was that they were kind of opting into a team fight where that's not exactly what their comp wants to do. They're diving onto UFT's backline but that's not actually what they want to happen, right? They want UFT to come into them, to have the Nico find, you know, a big pop loss on a flank or on a counter engage, and fight that kind of like slow fight with all of these Braum stacking things. But instead, they just dive onto the back line of UFT into the mid lane, don't find a kill. And it's the Ari that actually comes in with an excellent flank. Hermes just threads the needle with the charms both times and is able to find the Corki with the charm onto that re-engage and the resets. And then from there on out, it's just a free team fight from UFT. Once the Corki is charmed, it's very, very easy for them to clean up. And that means, in comparison to game one, this time UFT, they're the ones who have 3 Drakes.
Yeah, and it's that 3 Drake difference that can ultimately be an incredibly impacting factor, as it forces you to do certain decisions in ways that you might not want to, like you're mentioning. If you're able to catch the enemy team off guard doing an objective, potentially diving on your carries or whatnot, UTM's team comp seems to shine. But if you're the opposite, if you're on the back foot, if you're trying to collapse on the enemy team as a anti-dive comp, it becomes incredibly difficult. They're able to use vision to their advantage, and as you can see here, just completely exert their pressure on UTM and take this Otacon in the bot lane for seemingly free, as Ari is able to rotate and I hope save that tower in the mid lane as an additional teleport from Set comes in to ensure that tower is safe. Potentially looking for something here
as well.
They engage on him.
A nice 2-man stun. Double finds some good damage, not blocked by the shield. They'll be able to save the turret, but not the ensuing fight. The Cyclone has been used, but shouldn't be that big of a deal. I do believe it should be backed up for this Dragon Soul. And that's kind of what all eyes are on at this point in the game. It is the Chemtech Soul, which is by far the worst soul in the game. But still, it is still very decent. And when you have quite a bit of shields and heals on your teams, with the Nami, with the Ari healing as well to some extent, but mostly the Vi shields and the Set shields, it is still relatively significant. It's still a relatively powerful soul. The soul is certainly better than no soul. So both teams are definitely going to be looking towards that. It is spawning in 20 seconds now. Scary Deathman is actually in the top side. They're giving this up. I don't think they're fighting for this soul.
Yeah, very interesting, considering the jungler is not that far behind. I would have considered a Wukong steal well within the cards, considering that they're within the same couple levels. No one has an upgraded smite while the other doesn't. And it seems like they're just giving it with no pressure as Nico teleports in the bot lane to save the tower. Flash out from Set to save him.
I don't, to be honest, I don't even think that flash is necessary. I think he would have survived regardless. But just being safe. I don't know if I like this call from UTM. I think I understand why they're giving it up. The Wukong doesn't have access to Cyclone. They are far behind in the sense that in golds, they are relatively far behind, but they're not that far behind where they can't take a fight. And this is still a Dragon Soul.
1,000. Yeah, I don't know.
It's still fightable, guys. Raz is not going to be able to take the fight. The suplex comes onto the Braum. It's not going to be able to find that much value for now. They're looking for the CC assist onto the Corki, though. We don't have the backline. Kazakage is finding a nice devastating smash. Justin Destro, though, he's about to go down. He's not going to be able to find a kill. He's still alive. He finally goes down. It's a 1v4 situation now. It's a complete wipe in favor of UFT. It looked close for a second, but really it wasn't. Hermes is still full HP onto this Ari. And boy, oh boy, I think this time UFT should be able to take this game.
Yeah, absurd decision making, like you were mentioning, from UTM there. I mean, if you're unwilling to take that dragon fight as 5, why, oh why would you take that fight as 5 immediately after when they still have the advantage in their favor? They just got the 4th dragon, they just got the soul, they've got the Herald pushing down mid, and now you want to take an uncoordinated fight in the jungle? I mean, if you look top jungle, they don't even have proper wards. However, I will say one thing in positive. UTM is able to hold off, UFT is not able to close out on that victory or get that Baron, which may have been potentially better. I think I prefer a Baron instead of a mid inhib or potentially a Nexus Tower now that they respawn. Interested to see how both teams exert their pressure now that UTM is in much more desperate situation than the one that they were in just 2 minutes ago when they gave up the final Dragon Soul. Maybe their jungler doesn't have their tab button bound. We'll to see how many dragons each team has, but I know for sure they'll understand the importance of Baron and how even a single push could mean a win or a defeat, and how they leverage it for their win last game as it started up from the side of UFT. The teleport from Set coming in must signify to Sion that he knows it's being started. The Sion teleport comes in as this team fight looks about to begin.
They're trying to find a steal. They're not going to be able to find it. It's going to be secured by UFT. The Pop Blossom finds 3 onto the backline by Pragma. 1v2 situation. One taps the backline. Yari still very healthy. Scary Deathman is about to go down as well because of the reset from Yari. Not going to be able to find it, but she does the double kill for her. It's another reset. It's a complete team fight wipe as well as the Baron for UFT. At this time, there is no game to throw. There's no way to lose this game for UFT. They will equalize the score 1-1, and we're going to a best of 3 in this Toronto face-off.
Yeah, some great moves from UFT, executing on their mechanics pretty near perfectly as they take team fight after team fight win, and game 2 goes to UFT.
And this felt like potentially how game 1 could have also went to some extent. UFT have a dive composition. They execute the dives relatively well. They have control over the lanes with the Lucian Nami, with the counter pick that they had in top lane, with a decent matchup, it looks like in mid. I'm not too knowledgeable with mid matchups, but it looked pretty decent to me. And then they execute on the team fights just a little bit better. They always have like that little bit of edge. They pull the enemy team in. They find a nice flank on the Ahri. That was a nice Pop Blossom in the end by Intez, but at that point you're already far enough behind. The Ahri has 3 items completed and an upgraded pair of boots, and she's perfectly fine with just diving into your backline, just going straight behind the Nico, and finding some very decent value. On top of that, your set is like doing, I mean, you can see the damage charts. 23,000 damage is pretty respectable. For the most part, he was kind of just wailing onto the Sion in lane for that. But regardless of that, it seems like this time I'm the one who wins our bet, even.
No, you're completely right. And I think I fell victim to some of the things that I was right in the first game, whether or not the execution was there. I think ease of team fight is really playing a incredibly impactful role here, as both teams seem to be quite willing to take those big 5v5s around neutral objectives. It really comes down to which team can make their execution matter. And in terms of execution, it's as easy as it comes for UFT in that last game. You can't miss a Vi ultimate. You can't really miss a culling, to be honest. I mean, you just point it in their general direction and press R. In comparison, TMU has all these difficulties that they're really struggling with. Can you consistently land that 4-man Pop Blossom? In the end, it doesn't really seem like it. And by the time you can, like you mentioned in that last fight, it doesn't matter. You've been pushed too far behind. You've given up 4 dragons such that even if you hit that 4-man Pop Blossom or 3-man in that final fight, they can just heal through it. They can shield through it, and the rest of your team can carry you through the lack of damage that you have getting caught out there, and eventually end up winning that team fight, securing the neutral objective, and securing that nexus. What do you think?
Couldn't agree more. As I said, I do think that ease of execution at this time was
definitely
even easier than in game 1. As you said, you can't miss Vi ultimate. Cease and desist, very, very powerful tool that cannot be missed. Very easily countered as well by Azonias, but in this case, you can't really build Azonias on Corki. He's not an AD carry that you can build that on.
Just watch me.
Either way, I mean, you can if you want to, but it's not particularly good. It's free country, as we say. Um, but regardless of how this game went, now I feel like we're starting to get an idea of the identities for both of these teams. It feels like we're kind of getting, so far at least, in both of these drafts, we had a similar theme of UFT going for a dive composition and UTM going for a peeling one or a catch one, where they're kind of like receiving the engage and then counter engaging.
Yeah.
My question to you is: do you think that either of these teams are going to change their game plan?
Yeah, definitely. I think both teams pretty solidly identified that certain parts of their composition were easier or more difficult to play around, whether that was in that first game, that ease of picks with Lissandra ulti, getting them a lot of their beneficial gold and kills. And in that second game, the ability to have a team-wide strength. In comparison to the first game, where you definitely had some more tankier sides and some more squishier sides, like you mentioned, pretty much everyone across the board in that game too from U of T had opted for some more tankier options, whether that's a Roa in the hands of Ari, or if that's the more general bruiser diversity that you see across even maybe the trading patterns of Lucian. You're able to be more safe at the cost of a slight bit of damage that in the end might not even matter. I mean, if you can survive that counter engage from a Pop Blossom, if you do any damage whatsoever, Nico can only auto attack you. I mean, even just dodge it and you're out in the clear. So I think both teams will be looking to reorganize what worked well in their winning game and try to really apply it to this game 3. Do you have any predictions in how they might reorganize their team or maybe stick to what worked?
I don't think they're going to change a thing, to be honest with you. I think they're going to. I predict Magic 8 Ball, help me. That they will stick to their guns and they will most likely salty run it back.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the times when you're playing in these university teams, you're not you like playing in a way that you feel comfortable and in a way that you feel gives you the best chance to win, obviously.
Definitely.
And a lot of the time, I think once you get like used to a certain way of playing, if it works, you kind of just keep doing that. That's my prediction.
Yeah.
I've casted a lot of CLOL and like kind of this level of games, and I think it's only once you get to more advanced levels of play where you really start to get like teams that are comfortable with like swapping in and out of different ways of playing the game. So yeah, my prediction is that they're, for the most part, stick to their guns. As I believe we are going to take a short break, or are we going straight into the draft? Okay, we are going to take a quick break. So we'll be right back. We'll be back in like 3 minutes for game number 3 of this best of 5.
Welcome back. Here we are in game 3 as bans and draft are just beginning. Is once again me, Naw, and Natural here are here to cast game 3 as the series begins to heat up 1-1. So we see both teams getting some success in game 1 for TMU and game 2 for U of T. I've been told by my production manager that I've been saying UTM instead of TMU. Very important distinction. And I
I,
will attempt to ratify that mistake in this upcoming couple games. TMU, TMU, TMU. As we see TMU banning Hui, Vi, and Xin Zhao, some of their most hated picks from the last couple games, whereas U of T picking banning out Thresh, Graves, and Taric, interestingly. Any notes on those bans? Anything you think sticks out?
Yeah, I've also said UTM or UMT. I've said like every combination of those three letters constantly for the past 2 games, and I apologize. That is truly unprofessional of me, and I apologize for that. Hopefully, I've got a second cup of coffee this time, so maybe this time I'll wake up and actually realize that it's TMU and not UTM. So we'll try to get that right this time. We still have a best of 3 to play. Thankfully, we've still got at least 2 games. So the good news is we have so many more opportunities to get it right. As you said, the bans on either side, nothing too surprising. We've seen the Taric, Graves, and Thresh be banned in the first 2 games as well. Something is going on with this Taric. I don't know what's going on, but I'm just gonna assume that something's going on. So it's usually like a targeted ban that we haven't realized through their OPGGs because it's like a previous season thing, or maybe they like are, you know, they have like a reputation for playing like Taric Callista or something. Regardless, it doesn't matter. UTR are going to opt for the Tristana once again, and TMU are going to go for Corki Wukong. So very similar champions to the first 3 games. Ornn as well is going to be picked here for the side of UTR. And you know what? I'm just going to come out and say it. I think CLOL should be fearless too.
Wow, very confident.
I think so. I think, you know, fear. I don't know what other people think about Fearless, but the vast majority of viewers, you know, people who are into esports, seem to like Fearless for a good reason. Is because it gives you so much diversity in the picks, and yeah, the quality of the game sometimes is a little bit lower because of it. Because you know you might be pushed onto something that you're not comfortable on, but it's fun. Bad League of Legends is actually fun to watch.
Yeah, and for those of you who may not know, Fearless Draft takes a couple of things that are key sticklers for some people who watch competitive League of Legends. Fearless Draft says that if you pick a champion, you are not able to pick it in a subsequent draft or game. This means that teams have to be sort of more fluid in their champion decisions, and over the course of a series, either ban out and pick some of the enemy's key choices, or ban out some of your own key choices as you run out of champions that you're either confident on or even just good on towards the end of a series. It can make for some very interesting scuffles, as these players are very, very good, as you mentioned, at least master tier. However, they seem to tend to stick to 1 or 2 champions, as we're seeing some repeats here in the Ahri, the Ornn, the Tristana, the Wukong, the Corgi. Only 1 difference so far in the Jax right here, as both teams seem to stick to their guns in what they believed was winning them the team fights and the games earlier on.
Yep. As I mentioned earlier, a lot of these teams tend to like to stick to their guns. They have like a certain way of playing the game, and they like to kind of like play within that boundary. As with the Viego and Vi banned, the combinations for the Ahri are starting to get pinched, but there is one more champion that goes well with the Ahri, and that's going to be the Nocturne. And the UTR are going to go for it. So once again, University of Toronto are going for a dive composition. It looks slightly different. It's a different font, perhaps, of a dive composition, but it is a dive composition. The only thing that kind of I feel like University of Toronto is identifying themselves as a slightly different form of like dive composition is that Orange, I believe, is the support for UTR. Does not seem to play a lot of these melee champions. They're more of like a support, a ranged enchanter player with a Nami, I believe, was their most played champion this season. And it's going to be the Lulu this time. So they do have like a little bit of a range advantage there in the bot lane, which makes it so they usually get prio. And TMU are identifying, hey, this guy is just picking enchanters every single time. Why aren't we picking a hook champion? Why are we not playing Nautilus? Excellent question. And TMU are going to be able to pick the Nautilus here. So I do like the answer that they found. I think they've realized a little bit more. Hey, like I think we can actually just like pick something a little bit more aggressive. We don't have to play Braum. We can actually try to kill their bot lane and pick the Nautilus instead. I like this adaptation. It's a little bit, it's still like they're mostly sticking to their game plan. Like we've seen a lot of similar champions. We're still seeing the Lissandra, the Wukong, the Corki, where it's like, we're just going to like play the fights a little bit slower. We're going to try to like bait you in and then counter engage with a Cyclone or something. I do think TMU they're progressively like getting more and more options every draft. It feels like the first draft they were like, we're playing like full defensive, like 3 tanks, and then game 2 they're like, okay, let's just get like a few more options, let's pick a little bit more damage. And now they've got a Jax, we've got a Wukong, we've got a Corki, we've got a Nautilus. It's getting more and more aggressive. So I think maybe that's like a change.
Yeah, and like you said, they're beginning to shore up their defenses. And some of their weaknesses, and what I think can tend to be sort of a better team comp than maybe what they have picked in their previous games. I'm still not a massive fan of the Corgi as a support player myself. I always like those either hyper carry or all in characters, maybe a Draven or a Jinx. And I feel like Corgi sits in that happy medium where ADC players love the flexibility that he gives you in damage, in mobility, and in range. But personally, I think he can lack a little, especially when team fights can be over in the blink of an eye. If a Nocturne and an Ahri gets on top of you with a Lulu ulti, you really don't have that option that maybe an Ezreal has to blink out of. If a Corki W's and a Lulu ults on top of him, he's not going anywhere. He's staying right where he is, and he's not putting out any damage that maybe a Draven might. So I think ultimately TMU's team comp may come down to those more tanky side lane picks, maybe a split pushing Jax or a incredibly fed Wukong, whereas UTR has a much more diversified cast of characters that is able to carry themselves into the late game, into maybe a mid-game skirmish for objectives that seem to be so pervasive in these past couple games. Do you think that either team has a strong point that might make the difference here?
I think very similarly to game 1, last game. The onus is on UFT to engage and to get stuff done. I do think their execution this time is a little bit more complicated. I think the Vi offers like a lot of safety to those types of compositions because you cannot miss a cease and desist. But I will say, it's not like Nocturne is particularly that much more complicated. I think for the most part, their team comp stays pretty much exactly the same, like in the ways that it should function. The only thing that's changed for me, actually no, there's two things I think that have changed. The first one is the bot lane. I think TMU with the Nautilus in hand have a little bit more options into how they want to play the bot lane. They can be a little bit more aggressive. They can try to look for all-ins. As you mentioned, Corki is kind of like in a medium of like, I'm not exactly like a Samira or a Nyla, but I'm not a Jinx either. It's not like we're playing for like full on kill lane, but it's not like we're full on like a hyper carry either. But I do think that he sits in a position where he can go for these all-ins, right? He's like, especially when they first reworked him. I don't know if you remember, and you were playing back then, but he was like super busted because first 3 levels in the game, there was no champion that could beat him. It was kind of insane. There was like never a bad fight for Corki levels 1 through 3. He won all of them. Now he's a little bit more toned down. You do lose some matchups. You have to play it a little bit smarter, and you do depend on your support, as it should be. but he's still relatively strong in those early levels. So I do think that, you know, if TMU managed to find a nice hook, they managed to set up a gank, they might be able to get an advantage in the bot lane. One thing I will mention is I really would have liked a different pick in the jungle. If you're going to be playing for those kill bot lanes, right? If you're going to be playing for those Nautilus hooks and for those Corki dashes, why are we picking a Wukong? The Wukong doesn't offer anything pre-level 6. You're going to hook him, and Wukong is going to do what? Slap him with the stick on top of his forehead? Doesn't do anything. So I really wish that at least in jungle we had like a little bit of a different pick from TMU. You know, maybe something like a Jarvan. The Jarvan isn't exactly the best against Tristana because she can jump out. But you know, something a little bit more proactive on those 3v3s bot lane. Regardless, the other thing that I wanted to mention is the Jax. So far, we've had like tank matchups, both games. Though Set is like not really a tank, but it feels like a tank matchup. It's like nothing is really happening. He got like a level 1 kill, which was nice, but Jax scales a little bit better, right? And he has that X factor of like, if I'm able to go for those side lane pressure and is able to like push onto these turrets, maybe I can do so much damage that I just straight up end the game. So maybe that's the thing to look out for TMU. I think for the most part, both of these team compositions stay relatively similar. But I would like TMU to, one, have a little bit more proactivity in general, but especially in the bot lane. And B, if you're going to pick a Jax, I'm expecting this Jax to win side lane.
He better. And
He better.
With those notes, you want to leave us off with a prediction? Which side are you backing for this game 3?
You know, both games I have been on the side of UFT. And I think in both games they gave it a pretty good shot. I think they tried their best, you know. And in game 2, I think they blew my expectations away. They played even better than I thought they would. It was a blowout. They crushed it. I mean, the first 10 minutes of the game were relatively slow, but then they found like one team fight win, and I think it gave them a lot of confidence. It gave them a lot of momentum. They were like, yeah, we can win this game, and like, we got this, you know? And I'm going to follow up on that momentum. I'm going to keep backing my own horse, UFT, baby.
Well, with that long preamble, I almost heard you going for TMU, that team swap in game 3, but I guess that's going to fall onto me, as I think U of T definitely has the team comp advantage. I much prefer, as a support main, even though I play a lot of Nautilus, I much prefer that Lulu into a Nautilus, the ability to sit back and say, well, I'm going to scale. Me and my ADC are going to be good into late game. What are you going to do about it? And I think TMU does not have enough tools to be able to say, I know what we're going to do about it. I mean, if we're thinking about a post 20 minutes team fight, short of a complete positioning nightmare, what can TMU do to engage on the side of U of T? I mean, they have the Nautilus hook, they have the Jax dash, they have the Lissandra engage, but all of those are medium to short range engages. I mean, you have to burn that Lissandra flash if you want to catch someone off guard. And that's just not something that you can consistently do. In comparison, Ornn Ultimate is far, far outranges any of these things. Ahri Dash allows her to get in and out of these choice engages, and Nocturne is practically map wide. If he's on your side of the map, you have no assurances that you're safe, especially into such an explosive matchup like Tristana, Lulu, Corgi, Nautilus. So I think in the end here, onus is definitely on TMU to make those decisive fights that do end up panning out for them work. And on the other side, U of T can just sit back, wait for their ultis to recharge, wait for their fights to come into their favor, and should they make those decisions, which they can do, they can make those decisions work.
So we're both backing the same horse. This time there's no one. If we both lose, now that would be funny. I guess if TMU, Jesus Christ, if TMU win this game, I'm sure there are TMU fans in the chat. Maybe the TMU chatters are the winners if they actually win here. Or again, we're not betting anything or anything. I don't even think I don't even think I have enough channel points to bet. Yeah, I don't even know if that's the thing happening. But we are backing UFC's horse in this race, both of us. As you mentioned, I do think, yeah, I prefer just the draft, and because of the momentum that they had in game 2, and even in game 1, it felt like they had control over the game, right? Like they threw it, but it still felt like they were in a winning position for the most part.
Yeah.
So I do agree with you. I do think that they have a better team composition. I feel like if you were TMU's coach, if you were their draft manager, or like if you were advising their draft, what would you tell them? Just very shortly.
UTM or sorry,
TMU.
TMU.
Yep. Yep.
TMU. Yes.
Yep.
Um, I would say stick to your strengths. Both teams have been making some quite out of character mistakes. And whether or not you have the right team composition, you do have the right skirmish ability to take advantage of some of those early fights. As we get into game here and people roll out into the rift, we can see those decisions in action.
There's game 3 of this best of 5, which means that it's basically game 1 of the best of 3 in the Toronto Rivals face-off brawl, whatever you want to call it. As many qualifiers as you want, but it is the CLOL East brawl here. It is semifinals, and I do believe CLOL is single limb, which means that if either teams lose, I don't think they have a chance to get back into it. Once again, I believe this is a 5-point from both teams, though it looks like TMU might be looking for something here. We find a hook onto Hermes. It's some very decent damage. Hermes is going to flash out, but it's way too late.
Ooh.
And that's just, yeah, that's just kind of questionable.
Yeah, poor decision making on the side of Hermes. I mean, you either have to flash the hook or you don't flash at all. And you made the wrong decisions on both of those aspects. Getting caught by the hook, underestimating its length, as many tend to do, as well as wasting some of those summoner spells, as well as teleport, which puts quite a big onus on Sandra here to take advantage of that and potentially make a teleport matter on their side. I mean, if you noticed in this most recent season's changes, you can now once again teleport to anything you want throughout the game. You don't have to wait to that 14-minute mark. It means maybe something like a deep ward in the bot lane, maybe a fight in the top lane can be the deciding factor if Lissandra chooses to teleport to that and get that man advantage, something that Hermes can no longer do after that first blood death.
Yeah, just a little bit of ego, perhaps, or inattention, whatever you want to call it. It means that the first kill is going to go over to this Quirky, which is the worst target that I could have possibly gone to. He should be able to recall earlier than Tristana here and perhaps get a BF over comparatively like a pickaxe or something for a rock spray. But regardless here, this time it's Pragma on the tank. And Tony Kazakage on the Jax as to compared to last game. Obviously Pragma was on the set. Tony Kazakage was on the Scion. He's taking a big chunk of damage here. Should be able to heal through though with those potions. And as we mentioned earlier into the draft, we do think that we have some better options overall. Tony Kazakage though, with a counter strike, not gonna be able to find anything. I just wish. Okay, they're just slowly kind of tickling each other. I feel like they're in lethal range, but is it actually gonna happen?
Yeah, it's something interesting. Considering the role reversal in the top lane, it looks like Kazakage much more confident playing into a tank rather than a tank himself. Or maybe that's just the character's strength showing through here. As we see both teams sort of embracing their neutral advantages, embracing their natural advantages, and getting that second scuttle in the top side, potentially double scutting Scary Deathman here. Pretty valuable considering that's 8 CS advantage in the jungle. I mean, makes your first back quite a bit healthier as we see a fight breaking out. Top lane, regular trading patterns. As top laners go, nothing really happening.
Exactly. Yeah, as we were mentioning in the draft earlier, I do think that if TMU are to keep playing these kind of like skirmishing team compositions, I do wish that they opted into a heavier kind of anti-dive team composition, because it seems like UFT pretty much every single time are all in on the dive compositions. They are picking over and over again kind of these RE, like Nocturne, RE, Vi lanes with a Tristana in the bot lane or something along those lines, with an Ornn in the top lane, and they're just really enabling their dive aspects. So I kind of wish that TMU opted for some heavier like counter engage options, or maybe a Xayah, excellent champion to kind of counter these kind of compositions with. You just press R, and anything that comes into the range of your feathers just gets annihilated. Xayah Rakan is a very solid lane as well. You don't necessarily have to give up the lane either for it. Lissandra also feels like kind of she's getting outranged in a lot of these matchups and is really struggling to find a lot of value. So I do wish that, you know, TMU knows what's coming at this point. I think they've realized, oh, UFT is just going to play like this over and over again. So I think this time, I would like them to ready the punch. You gotta brace. As Hulk is going to be found onto the move, but Jay on the Nautilus here is taking a lot of damage. He's going to have to flash out. Summer is being traded. The W is going to be used by Scary Deathman to get out of the charm. And now it looks like UFT have control over the river and the Dragon Pit. Jay is very low as well. I have to be careful here. They're going to be able to find the Nautilus hook onto the Nocturne. They're going to be trying to one-shot him, but they don't find the damage. That's already a reset for Rock's Prey. He's in the melee now, though. And the Glacial Prison will be able to take him down. It's now a 3v3. Flash in with Hermes as charm, but he actually doesn't find the damage. He doesn't have the mana to follow it up with, which means that it's just kind of like a free win for TMU.
Yeah, some important mechanical decision-making going awry there. As you saw, Tristana using her jump, but didn't time it correctly, so she didn't get that jump reset off of that first kill, making it so that once she was in the backline, she had no conceivable way of getting out, even holding that flash there. And of course, trading that ADC for support is always going to be beneficial in that bot lane. You want to keep your ADC as healthy and as on tempo in terms of farming as you can. And when you're able to make that decision to trade your life for the ADCs, you're going to take it every single time, of course. And even though no neutral objective was taken, no real massive gold difference came up, you can see that difference in pressure happening right here as the fight breaks out. Prey's able to get out, but that of course means they're able to secure that vision advantage around the Drake. Begin hit on vision, which you probably shouldn't be doing, but nonetheless, UFT is forced out of this Dragon Pit and forced to make some concessions of their own. They push up lane and I think just back to reset and get their items. Whereas Corki is able to just sit in that sheen and soak up some more gold and neutral objectives and put their team even further ahead.
They don't mind too much. They know that the Nocturne is on the other side of the map doing grubs, so they will start the Dragon, and they're also going to be trading their camps. More or less splitting the map, though Lulu, this battle Lulu is actually driving the Wukong out of his Nocturne's camps, which means that this Nocturne is now really far ahead. He's actually like basically a full cycle ahead of this Wukong, which is definitely not something that you want to see happen on your Wukong. They did nerf the clear speed of Wukong quite a little bit in the last rotation of patches that he got. And I think we can see the impact of that just a little bit. On top of that, yeah, this battle Lulu driving away means that this Nocturne still has his full camps to clear. So I think, despite the fact that TMU got a solid fight into that ball lane, as you said, because of some of those mechanical misplays, I think UFT are still perfectly comfortable in this game.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you can see how comfortable they are in the gold differential up top. UFT 2 kills down and yet still 300 gold up, almost 1 kill's worth of solo gold in the hands of UFT. I mean, of course it's difficult when the enemy ADC is this fed, but it's also much more much easier to capitalize on that shutdown gold. I mean, if everything is on one squishy character and all you have to do is catch that one squishy character out, I mean, that's what Nocturnaut's for. That's what Ari Charm is for. You just got to hit them once and they're out of the game, and essentially TMU's entire hopes of winning go out the window along with that Corki should he fall. Similarly, if you're able to diversify your gold, as you mentioned, across that Nocturne, across that Ornn, and potentially even the Tristana in the gold from CS, as you can see in the bottom here, you're able to build that advantage of a lead, which is much, much harder to throw away. I mean, if you're thinking about it, which is it easier to do? Get a single pick or get a team-wide wipe? I know I'd be putting my money on U of T's favor right here, even as they concede 3-1 in terms of kills.
A little thing that happened there in the bot lane, Lulu got in lane in time to hold the wave for Rock's Prey on the Tristana, and Corki and Nautilus canceled their bases. They canceled their recalls, which means that even though Corki is probably about, 600 or so gold ahead at this point, it actually doesn't matter because the item difference is nothing. He's actually behind in items. So as long as this Corki doesn't recall, it's actually UFT's bot lane that has control on this lane. Has a lot of trading going back and forth in the top lane. So here Deathman on the Wukong, might be looking for a gank. Looks like they're just going to be traded back and forth. I think both teams are probably looking towards this second dragon as the next potential objective, though second set of grubs is also spawning soon. And with the Lulu orange here on the road, it looks like it's going to be taken uncontested by UFT.
Yeah, we see a bit of a lane swap, something akin to the decisions to put their ADC mid lane in game 2. Very interesting, considering the amount of map pressure you get in comparison to bottom lane, as we see a dive coming in.
Hermes is going to be stunned up. Marvel's Hook doesn't find anything though, and he's still tanking the turret. Jay is just dead here. And that is catastrophe for TMU. I don't think there's a better way of putting it. It's a disaster.
Yeah, I must say, complete misplay on the side of Jace. As a Nautilus main myself, you really have to time that quite precisely, but you do have that ultimate, you have that flash to be able to assure your team that that CC is going to come through. But if you mistime any of it, if you allow the enemy to get their ultimate off, especially in the place of Ari with both ultimate and flash available, you're just throwing gold away. Not only just gold that could have been given to you in terms of that successful dive, but even gold on the rest of the map. You're putting 3 people down bot lane and saying, well, we're going to give away a kill, see what you can do about it. And of course, U of T is happy to grab that up, say, well, we're going to take our resets, we're going to spend our gold and see where it puts us after this. I mean, now gold has swung rightly in the favor of U of T, almost a 1,000 gold as the ulti comes out.
The Ornn is being called onto him. It is going to hit. The counter-strike finds the stun. He's going to leap away. Pragma, though, just going to bop him over the head. He finds a proc, but it looks like he should be able to get out, but he doesn't have the teleport here, so Pragma is going to be able to take the advantage on the top side. And as you mentioned earlier, it's a difficult thing to dive an Ari with a Rod of Mages. However, Jay could have at least... Oh my god, 20 Kazekage actually looking for the outplay here. Oh, the spacing! Mind control to walk back into the turret means that he's gonna die. Meanwhile, at the bot lane, we've got another fight. It's the shutdown collected by Rock's Prey. He's gonna be able to find a double kill on top of that as well. And boy, oh boy, I think if you're 20th Kazekage right now, you have the most cap to spare that I've ever seen in my life. You're looking at your bot lane and you're like, guys, I just got a solo kill. I mind controlled this guy to walk into my turret and die for no reason. Why did you guys die?
Yeah, and especially like I was mentioning, death from that Corgi means that the gold has completely flipped in the favor of Tristana. Now she's the one with the shutdown, she's the one with 3-0, and she's the one that's going to be having the items and the neutral objective difference that will make the ADCs so much more threatening as the game goes on. I mean, I know early you've got that difference in sheen on that Corgi, but once that's gone, you're just ticking down items. I mean, like you mentioned, Collector can be sort of questionable in certain situations, but it's an item whether you want it to be or not, and it's going to do damage whether you want it to or not. So as long as you can get those items on the back of your damage dealing characters, you're sitting pretty. And in comparison, Ornn gets his own damage dealing items even after that death in the top lane, that Sunfire Cape, hoping to probably neutralize some of these fights the top lane.
Pragma, he has access to the Ornn Horn in just a few seconds here. It's now been called. Looking for the snipe. It's a strike. And it's Justin Destro that's going to take that kill for free. And now,
Yeah.
it definitely feels like it's starting to fall apart.
Yeah, and the small advantages that TMU was able to build earlier on were almost purely built on mechanical advantages. Like you mentioned, the mind control you're able to exert on your laner can only take you so far. At the end of the day, you have to be able to consistently exploit your enemy to be able to get that win. And if you're not able to consistently outplay, like we saw in the top lane, you're left with nothing. I mean, the enemy team's just going to grow stronger and stronger as their team fight and team comp strengths play into each other and offer exponential bonuses, whereas yours offer exponential defeats, as we're beginning to see the gold lead grow to 3,000 gold, as top lane, jungle, mid lane, and ADC all offer a CS advantage, albeit somewhat small in some lanes. A CS advantage nonetheless, in one that hopes to make differences by getting picks and kills. And when picks and kills are as even as they are now, and you see a gold differential like 3,000 gold, you know something is going wrong.
Z-Lion, if you could press X, that'd be amazing. Just so we can see the individual gold differences here as... Never mind, we're looking for a team fight here. The Glacial Prism is used on himself. He's just gonna go down. The Collector here, getting some value.
Yeah.
And that's going to be ultimate, flash, and the life of the Lysandra taken right before as the Rifthold is spawning. Meanwhile, 20th Kazekage, though, he's the change that we've mentioned in these team compositions, and he's going to be able to take the side lane by force. Maybe, just maybe, TMU have a glimmer of hope in their side lane as this Jax is slowly scaling up. Rifthold has been started here. UFT, I would not recommend taking this fight. You do not have access to the Nocturne ultimate. And the Jax teleport is coming in. I really feel like you just don't have to take this fight. You don't have to take this fight. The hook is going to connect though. And he's going to be going in. Justin Defo is doing a lot of damage here onto the Nocturne. Hermes is coming in for the teleport as well. And boy oh boy, prove me wrong. Why not? I was wrong. The teleport is here, and UFT take the fight.
In all the fundamental terms, you were right. Kazekage did teleport into that to assist them in the fight there. However, I think all the mechanics went wrong. That Nautilus ulti wasn't able to be capitalized on. They were way too clumped for some of those AoE effects, and eventually Kazekage didn't even walk down. I mean, he just left them to be at the mercy of Hermes and his more beneficial teleport that was able to flank and get some damage out there. It looks like he's completely just playing for himself, saying, well, if you guys can't do it, I'll just do it myself, and looks to push his side lane pressure even further beyond.
We'll see if that's a gamble that 20th Kazekage can actually take advantage of. A little bit more of a selfish play style. Perhaps he's right. It's kind of hard to tell in these situations when you look at the team fight and, you know, the Jax POV in this game is pretty miserable, I will say. Nice spacing there. He's going to be able to find the counter strike. So maybe his, point of view is like, well, my team is doing kind of poorly. But I think I can carry this game, maybe, if I play through side lanes, and through side lanes only. Rock right here is going to jump over the wall, just so he can clear the wave. Rifthold is going to be drifted. Scary Death Man will be able to walk it out. A little bit of damage onto this turret. Third dragon of the game is now up, and here's an Infernal Soul. There's definitely not a soul that either team wants to give up. It is UFT that have control over the river and a lot of vision.
I would say
Around the
also
dragon.
importantly, if you look at the summoner spells, as Hook just barely misses, look at the summoner spells differential. Kasukage already used his teleport, whereas Frogmont has not. So potentially the ability to move to that fight, making it a 5v4 if they look to fight this, but it looks like TMU is giving up the objective here, allowing U of T to get their second Drake in the form of an Infernal, push themselves one step closer to that soul.
Team U are going to be giving and exchanging for a little bit more control in the mid lane. This time, they do have one dragon under their belt, which is significant. It buys them quite a bit of time. The Attic Hondo has spawned, and it's most likely going to go over to UFT completely uncontested. Team U are making a play on the top side, though. They are taking the top turret. They can can over to the top side. Yeah, it looks like they might even... No, it doesn't look like we'll be able to take a tier 2, especially with those GAs that have now been unlocked. And it definitely feels like UFT are once again very much in the driver's seat of this game.
Yeah,
their team composition is, as we mentioned, we think is better. Skills probably better. Has more range, more engage. It looks pretty difficult for TMU to find an access to this game. If you're in this game, I want to ask you, what are you saying to your teammates? If you're Jack's POV at the moment, what are you telling your teammates?
Here's what we're doing, team. Okay, we're gonna play Jack's top lane, and then we're all gonna sit 5 Death Bush in their bot lane. We're gonna sweep the entirety of our bot lane and look for picks, because all I know at this point is that TMU cannot make an all-out 5v5 teamfight win. I mean, it might look slightly even, but Jax in team fights, as well as the rest of their team in team fights, is much, much weaker. And I will emphasize that much, because as the game goes on, it will only get worse as you see Jax getting caught out here.
And they're going to be using all of their cooldowns for this.
Yeah.
It's 3 ultimates for this Jax alone, but does it really matter if you use all of your cooldowns when the only champion on their team is the Jax anyways? I'm going to say no. They're going to be able to take a tier 2 in this top lane as well, so the rich only get richer. And UFT here, we've got a lot of capital under their belt, we'll wrongly say, as also have GAs. Horn is going to be called just to discourage any further entanglements with TMU. And once again, I feel like UFT are playing to their playbook pretty well. They're playing what they know how to play. They're playing it relatively well. And I don't think they're going to lose this game. I don't think so.
And sort of the strengths in being experts with pressure, experts on macro and team movement is really paying off here. As you can see, their ability to take space, claim space, and then capture the gold within those spaces is really paying off. As you mentioned earlier in the game, where Nocturne is able to farm and Wukong isn't, it means that one team is gaining gold while the other isn't. And that's even more important as things start to ramp up in gold value. Those lane minions and the value of those compounding items as well becomes even more important as Nocturne is able to push his lead to almost 60 CS advantage, 300 gold bounty on his head across multiple people, 250 on Ari, 400 on Tristana. I mean, it just becomes insurmountable at some point. I mean, yes, you can claim those bounties and potentially make up a difference yourself, but if UFT is able to claim the entire map as their own, you can't even walk into your own jungle and be safe. I'd be worried that they're just going to make a decisive play at any moment and bring the entire world crashing down on you.
Gang, and I'm addressing TMU directly here. I think it's time we switch it up a little bit. I think we need to formulate a different game plan this time that either involves a little bit more engage yourself, in the sense that either you counter the unstoppable force with some O, or you actually go for an immovable object type composition where perhaps we draft something that's even more defensive. Maybe we first rotate a Braum. Maybe we get a Xayah in the mix, or a Sivir, or something along those lines. As, I mean, the 20th Kazakage here, he's doing his job. You know, he's looking for those side lanes. He's going to find a tier 2 turret. The Ornament is going to be called, though. Counter-Strike is here. Probably going to be looking to dash over the wall with the ward. It's a flash follow with Pragma, though, and that auto does a lot of damage.
The double teleport comes in.
Jack's now dead. Yeah, it's UFT that are going to be looking for the fight, though. This might be a little bit too deep. His team isn't quite here yet. The Nocturne is going to be one tap, but it's the Tristana that's doing a lot of the damage. That's a nice ultimate, pushing away 3. Diving back in, Rock's Prey, though, has to be careful. The Lulu ultimate is going to die. He does manage to take 2 kills on his way down, though. It's a triple kill for the Tristana, and UFT is left alive. Meanwhile, TMU, all of them are 6 feet deep.
Yeah, a bit of an unlucky engage there for UFT, as they weren't quite ready for that team fight. A little over-ambitious. However, I will note, while in the end UFT did take that win in terms of team fight, they did not take the win in terms of initial gold. Every single one of those kills had come with a caveat, a bounty, which now people look to take advantage of, because Kasayage, you know, Jax tries to get a kill back in his hands after that unfortunate dual top lane in which Ornn clapped him, as the kids are saying nowadays.
You're not very much of a weeb, are you, Ethan?
A little bit. I watch Solo Leveling. Anyone like Solo Leveling?
Oh, cool. Yeah, Solo Leveling is cool. But I can tell you're not an old head.
Yeah, sorry.
This is some weeb stuff. As Pragma here is actually just upgrading his teammates' item right in front of their faces. As Scary Deathman here is taking quite a little bit of damage. Justin Destro, he's going all in on him. The Nocturne ult is going to be used. Jax was in the back lane, but he's running away now, and I don't think there's anywhere to run away. Oh my god, so much explosive damage from the Tristana. The crowd control is good, but it doesn't matter. The bomb does so much damage. Rock Spray is a demolitionist expert. And boy, oh boy, I don't think that there's any towers going to be left here for TMU. I think this is going to game 4. UFT are taking the advantage 2-1 in this best of 5 series.
Yeah, and what a decisive win that is. I mean, talk about execution. The build-up to that final team fight really showed their prowess in playing this team comps to its strength, and eventually how it can get them that win.
Victory for UFT. As I think, as we've mentioned before, you know, a lot of these teams do enjoy to stick to their guns, but guys. And again, I'm speaking to TMU here. You gotta switch it up. It's not working. Okay, let's be real. That game 1 was... I'm not gonna call it a fluke. It was a good game. But something was wrong. And I think that thing that's wrong is still wrong right now. We gotta switch it up. We gotta find something else. I think I'm expecting TMU to go for a different direction this time. This time I do expect them to change something in their draft. I'm not exactly sure what it's going to be. I'd like to see a bot lane duo, I think. The Corki isn't really doing much. I think the Wukong is kind of weak in a lot of these team fights. We'll see what happens. We do have a little bit of time before we get into game 4. Game 3 with the side of UFT. We will be right back in a few minutes with game number 4. Match point for UFT. And welcome back to game numero cuatro. Wow, absolutely terrible accent. I'm never doing that again. Number 4, as I drop my coin onto the ground, of this series. It's CLOL semifinals, the Toronto Beef. We are getting there, and it's a draft is already underway. We've got the same exact bands by UFT, Thresh, Tarek, Graves. We're just never seeing those champions, I think. And on TMU Blue, we've got Zinzao, and this time we've got some adaptations, Tristana and Ari. So it looks like TMU Blue, this time they are going to be taking a little bit of word of advice. I don't think they heard me. I don't think they care. And they will be switching it up just a little bit. So at least the bands are different. This time UFT Ruby, though, hey, they're sticking to their guns once again. It's a dive composition. All 4 games. I mean, we've got Kaisa, Ornn, Wukong. We're good. Like they're like, okay, Banner, Tristana, I don't care. There's plenty more dive AD carries that we can play, including the Kaisa.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, some interesting concessions being made. You mentioned that Wukong. It's definitely interesting that UFT Ruby is deciding that they're willing to pick it up on their side and willing to take that tank matchup in the top lane as well.
Yep.
Offering quite a diverse cast as compared to their other games. I mean, they could have played something else with the Yone being picked. Interesting mid lane or potentially even top lane flex, although definitely don't see it as often nowadays. And I don't think it's quite as good into Ornn, especially if he can dodge his ulti. Maybe I'm getting a bit into the weeds here, but As we get into the bans, I think it's definitely possible for TMU Blue to salvage their team comp here, as in comparison to the past couple games where we both vouched for U of T to be able to win, and eventually they did end up coming out on top.
Indeed. We're not totally sure if the unit is going top or mid, as you mentioned, but I do believe that this is going to be something that we're going to find out in just a little bit. It's going to be the Karma and the Silent that are taken away by the bans here. Lulu as well. Ooh, they really don't like the Lulu.
Yeah.
It is, but I mean, Lulu is a pretty annoying champion to play against. I will say that, just in general. So I'm totally okay with it. As the Lissandra is going to be banned by UF2 Ruby, and I feel like the Lissandra ban is just like, well, we have a free ban. We don't really know what to ban. I think they're like pretty comfortable in all their champions. They're like, they don't have anything specific in mind. So they're like, let's just get this guy off of comfort. He seems to really like Lissandra for some reason. So let's just tell this guy, no, bro, you got to play something else at this point. Which I'm honestly happy with, because I don't think the Lissandra has really worked in any of the previous games. It felt like it was just really, I was just not doing much. The moment like that they got in last game, Lulu just built a Mikhail's, and from there on out, it was kind of like, okay, well, your Glacial Prison does nothing now. As it is going to be the Galio picked up here for TMU Blue. So more setup, more of that kind of like AP, like damage setup type champion. It honestly feels like just a Lissandra in a different font. As Yone here, now that we know that the Galio has been picked, most likely going to be going, I assume, wait, this is still a flex actually, as the Akali is going to be picked up for UF2 Ruby.
That is
I can see your eyes
unbelievable.
widening with surprise. What do you think of this pick?
Yeah, so I don't know why U of T Ruby's done that, but they have unintentionally picked themselves into the very worst Akali pick that you can possibly choose. There is nothing worse in this game that counters Akali more than Galio. He does everything that Akali wants to do and flips the script. If she ever goes into her shroud, you can immediately pull her out of it. All her damage is negated by Galio's magic shield, and really makes me question why you would pick Akali in this matchup. I mean, you don't necessarily have one target that you're looking to jump on and exploit other than maybe Lucian. And even in that case, Lucian's just going to turn right back on you and output that damage. So it really makes me question what their decision making was in that choice, especially when they still had the onus of so many other picks. I mean, why not pick Hui if you need magic damage? I mean, it's so much safer, and it doesn't mean you have to exert yourself to such terrible counters as a Galio. And on top of that, a Poppy is so good into a Kali. Like, every one of her dashes is nullified by that Poppy W. I just feel like it's such a backwards pick that completely flips this team fight composition on its head. In going into the first three picks, I thought U of T was in the lead, but now it's TMU that I definitely would back to get this win here. What are your thoughts, Natural?
You raise a very interesting point. Why did they pick Akali into Galio? And I'll tell you exactly why. I can feel the synapses connecting in their brain and their thought process. I know what's happening. They've picked dive compositions, right? All three games. And this time, Arya's banned. But they're like, let's just keep this plan going. You know? We're just gonna diversify. We're gonna branch out. What's the closest thing next to Ari? AP dive. Yes, I can feel it in the air. Akali, and Akali is picked. I think that's the thought process. It's like, we've been playing dive all 5 games. We have Ari is banned, but there's other champions that are like Ari. So let's just pick Akali. And as you mentioned, I do think that Akali is much more, number one, much more difficult to play than Ari is. Number two, it has a lot more matchups where you're like, oh, this is like terrible. I hate this. And Galio is one of them. You're right. And Poppy as well, as you mentioned, is just a really good champion this game. There are so many dashes on the side of UFT Ruby. Kaisa has one. Ornn has one. Actually, I think 2 maybe like his R is also a dash, and I'm pretty sure that you can cancel it with Poppy W. Wukong has one, Akali has two, three even, because it's both casts of the ultimate are a dash, and Rel has another one. So it's like you get so much value off of the Poppy here. You know what another pick would have been extraordinarily good here? Vex would have gone so hard, though obviously Poppy offers like a little bit more tankiness, and Vex is a little bit more complicated of a champion to play. She's not hard by any means, but she's a lot more niche. And not a lot of people play Vex. Regardless, we're just gonna forgo all of that. So I'm getting the feeling, Ethan, now this time you're backing TMU Blue.
Yes, I'm taking a second mortgage out, and I'm putting it all on TMU Blue.
We're putting the house on TMU Blue this game. You know what? I agree with you that the draft is better for TMU Blue. I agree. However, I feel like at this point I'm like a paladin that's taken an oath. You know, I can't go back on my word. I've backed the UFT horse for the previous 3 games, and I would 4 games actually. 3 games. No, 3 games. 3 games. I don't think I can go back on my word at this point. I'm gonna back UFT all the way, baby.
Okay. Well, yep. I guess you're sticking to your guns. You're sticking to your loyalty. I am picking based on merit. Thank you very much. And I think, honestly,
based off of analytics, boo. What are we? No. Some kind of commentators or something? Analysts?
No, TMU has done everything that you've said that they've needed to do. They've been listening in on this cast, very obviously, listening to experts such as ourselves, and they've picked that counter anti-dive that they've needed to. They've got that Galio that's able to ult Lucian. They've got that Poppy that's able to counter their dashes. I mean, the rest of their team is a bit lacking in that synergistic anti-dive thematic, but still, I wouldn't count out an Udyr being able to ravage those divers, especially those that like to go invisible. I mean, I know how annoying it is that you're in your Akali Shroud, you're in your Wukong W with your clone, and Udyr's still able to hit you. I mean, even something like Yone has a lot of that ability to hit people in stealth, hit targeted champions, and even dive into their backline and hit Kaisa himself. I think, honestly, TMU just does what UFT does, but better.
Okay, fair enough. No, that's totally fair. Hey, I will say something crazy on the side of TMU is that there are so many flexes in their team composition. Any of these champions could go pretty much anywhere. Obviously, like looking at their team comp as a whole, I think we can kind of tell what's going on. Lucian is going to go bot for sure. Udyr is most likely going to be going to the jungle. Galio. Now, my question is, like, where are we going for, like, a Poppy support or Galio support? Or which one of those two is going support? We're not totally sure. I would expect Poppy to go support, Galio to match the Akali, and then Yone to go into the Ornn lane. That's what feels like the most optimal for TMU. We have seen that both teams are pretty comfortable with swapping. So I'm going to be expecting, most likely from the side of UFT, going to try and dodge away from that Akali Galio matchup and instead put it into Akali Yone, which probably feels a little bit more playable on the side of Akali, I would assume. I'm not super well versed in these mid lane and just solo lane matchups in general, but that's what my intuition is telling me. I will say, one thing that I do want to mention, despite the fact that I think we both agree that TMU Blue this time has a lot more options, they feel like in the past, they've kind of been sticking to like their own game plan and not really reacting to the draft as much. But this time it feels like TMU Blue are a lot more reactive. They're like, okay, we see this pick, we're going to pick Galio. We're going to pick, you know, it feels like they've got a lot more of those counter punches going in their draft. I will say, I do think UF2 Ruby with this Kaisa can cook. This Kaisa can absolutely pop off. I think a lot of the onus for UFT to win this game is on the side of what's his name? I believe it's Nao Tamori. Oh, excuse me, Rox Prey. Rox Prey is the AD carry on the side of UFT Ruby. I'm sorry, I got a little bit lost in the sauce there. But I think a lot of the onus for UFT Ruby is to win this game is going to be on Rox Prey. With this Kaisa, I think he's really enabled. I mean, the amount of range that usually the thing that's the most annoying for Kaisa is either range or something like a Braum or Xayah, where they're really good at like countering that engage, right? But this time, besides the Poppy, there's not that much of it, right? Like, sure, you have to like chew through the Poppy and the Galio, but that's something that Kaisa is excellent at, and she is not outranged whatsoever. In fact, there's not a single champion on the enemy team that actually outranges her. So I do think if UFT Ruby are to win this game, which I'm hoping they do, because I'm backing the same horse for 5 games in a row, I think it's going to be on Roxbury.
Yeah, definitely. And I think core to that ideology is the ability for them to do well in their lane swaps as they have been in the past couple games. Like you mentioned, if Roxbury isn't able to get that advantage in the bot lane, I know Rel into Poppy is quite difficult, that they're not able to get that win. And as we load into the game here, we can actually see how these matchups are going to play out, whether they're as one-sided as I believe they can be.
And welcome to the Rift for the 4th time today, and perhaps the last time. A friend of the reminder that is 2-1 in favor of UFT, which means that they are on match point. TMU is back against the wall. This is single elim semifinals. So it's do or die for TMU at this point. I've mentioned the team compositions endlessly at this point. We do think that TMU this time is armed with better tools for the job. However, with the motion with the games so far that have been in favor of UFT the entire time, will they be able to actually do anything about this freight train that is UFT coming onto TMU? It looks like once again it's mostly a very passive level 1 here. 5 point is going to be a ward dropped by Jay here, spotting out which way the junglers are going to be pathing. But honestly, I don't really expect anything much out of either of these junglers in the early game. I'm pretty sure both of them will be full clearing, as UFT do manage to swap out correctly. They have the Ornn melee into the Galio and the Akali into the Yone in top. So they're able to match their preferred opponents, which is big for UFT as a start. And I'm going to be looking towards this bot lane quite a lot to see what is going on. As I do believe that both of these bot lanes will probably want to scrap relatively early on into the game.
Yeah, incredibly volatile bot lane, especially with that Rel Poppy. You're going to be looking for engages and counter engages practically the entire game, as both dashes can be relatively important, as you see the engage here on Tomari.
Now Tomari is taken down very low. 5 stacks of plasma. 1 more auto would do a lot of damage here, but Roxbury is not going to burn the flash for it. He's going to stay patient. Void Seeker not going to be able to hit. And it's a very nice start here for UFT in complete control of the bot lane. I will say one thing. Poppy is a very powerful pick, considering the amount of dashes on the enemy team. But it does mean that the Lucian is a little bit weaker because of it. You don't really get that kind of synergy that you would get out of a Nami, out of a Yumi, a Janna, anything that can like provide some enchanting abilities for this Lucian. So something to keep in mind.
Yeah, personally as a...
Yeah, excuse me.
Sorry. Yeah, personally as a support main, I think I would have preferred like an Ezreal or something in that role, as you're saying, something that can be properly safe or be properly pressuring if they're able to get a roam. As Galio gets dangerously low in the mid lane.
This is blocked here by Pragma, so he'll have to flash out. Luckily, he did have access to the Aftershock, which means that auto didn't do as much damage as it otherwise would have. Same with Kazekage here. I'd be looking for a fight. Pragma's actually going to look for the tie. Very cleanly done. He's going to use the flash, but he is able to get out. We know on the top lane, Hermes doesn't have access to the flash as well. He should be using it. He'll be able to get out. But again, feels like UFT are pretty comfortable so far. But Jade might be walking into the wrong hood. You're gonna have to flash out. The Aftershock expires and he's explasmated by Roxbury. Very nicely done by UFT.
Yeah, really well executed here, as we see practically every lane emphasizing their strengths. Hermes here surviving the gank, whereas the rest of their team not able to, rest of TMU not able to do so, as another
Q3. He's not going to be able to find it. He's just going to use his E. Crab emote, walk away. His lane is in an awful state, though. I mean, he can't walk up to these minions. It's still pushing outwards, I think. So he's pretty sad. Like he should be okay. And as you mentioned, UFT in control of these games, successful ganks, and a successful dive in the mid lane out of the Ornn, out of all people. I mean, this Galio is like actually getting demolished.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that much about the Galio Ornn matchup. Considering Ornn does do majority magic damage, I can't say it's that great, but he is making it look almost easy here as he's getting first blood and mid pressure, and Galio seems unwilling to swap or to make any concessions himself to be able to put himself in a good position. I mean, I know I, for one, if I was playing Galio, I'd be begging for my Yone to come down mid lane, maybe teleport or catch a wave, just so that I'm able to get back into that lane position that they planned for. I mean, be able to capitalize here instead of getting routinely hit and knocked up by this Ornn.
Yeah, I do think TMU could play this lane swap a little bit more proactively and try to match the lanes that they prefer. But instead, they're just going to keep it this way, though. Intez is on a recall now, so let's see, maybe after 20th Kazakage finishes clearing their wave, they could opt into swapping, though it looks like Intez is currently opening mid. It doesn't look like they're actually going to go for a lane swap.
Unbelievable, I must say, considering how big of a counter it is. I mean, surely you'd want to emphasize those lane counters, but it seems like they're just happy to run back into lane and continuing doing what they're doing. I will say it does get more and more difficult for U of T to capitalize on their mechanical outplays as the game goes on. Characters like Poppy and Udi or Galio all getting their very strong base damages online from their levels. You see here, Scary Deathman getting zoned a bit off of Krugs, whereas Destro getting that dragon in the bot lane. It may turn out to be a fight here as Hermes is posturing and the ult comes out from Ornn.
You want Ornn is used. It's already 2 Krugs going over to the side of TMU. UFT really correctly identified here that this is not a fight that they want to take. It is at a numbers disadvantage. The Wukong isn't there. Not level 6. They trade it for the dragon. Handshake objectives across the map, pretty much like we've seen in the previous 3 games. So nothing too crazy there. Rock Spray here. He's pretty chunked out. And but I do think that he's probably going to take a recall now. And so far, so good. I think UFT, once again, feel like they're pretty comfortably into this game.
Yeah, and exceptional considering how negative I was on their team comp going into this. I mean, I for one would have put heavy onus on U of T to be able to capture this early game and actually make a difference in terms of the picks they've made, and they've done exactly that. I mean, Ornn's gotten his kill, Kai'Sa's gotten his kill. You've got your gold exactly where you want it. I mean, Hermes isn't exactly flourishing in this top lane position, but it's not like they're losing. They're 5 CS up. They've got a health advantage here, and they seem to be going relatively even in almost all of these trades. This is exactly where Akali wants to be going into level 6, being able to press that advantage with an ultimate that you can definitely outplay 20th Kazakage with. I mean, it really just comes down to, at this point, whether you can make those mechanics work. And in terms of U of T, they have been making it work.
I think there's something to be said about momentum in this series. Or maybe, you know, some kind of formulation of that where once one of these teams starts to get more confident in the way that they play and in their abilities, they play more confidently. They play better. And on the other hand side, once you start tanking those losses, sometimes it can be hard for players to get back into that headspace, to get back into that mindset of like, no, I am good at this game. I can play it. So I think TMU here, what I'm trying to say is that they got to lock in. Okay, we've got to focus in. We've got to remind ourselves that it's not lost. Matter of fact, you have a good team composition. You're not, you're back against the wall, but that doesn't mean that you can't win. And I'm hoping that TMU realize that just as fast as I do. As Hermes here, he's sussed out a play correctly, but this isn't a Kali. That is very mobile, still has flash, So I don't think this play is going to work out. And honestly, I kind of wish that Scary Deathman was more focused on to his bot side. Because now, this is most likely going to be a dive coming in here. The crackdown from the well. A lot of damage, though, coming in from the culling. Rock Spray is also most likely going to die here. And I think UFT might have overplayed their hand. Very similar to the game one. The only way that UFT actually lose this game is by playing way over their limits, and it is going to be traded back and forth. They do manage to find the kill onto Lucian, however, it's still in the favor of TMU.
Yeah, a little bit of a misplay there from Lucian, giving up what could have been an all-out routing success. I mean, holding that flash, allowing yourself to get into melee range of that Wukong really isn't something you want to be doing as the ADC, especially as you can see in the bot lane, those CS still getting killed by the tower. It's gold you're giving up that you could have used to put yourself even further ahead, something that's very important in that ADC matchup should push come to shove even further on. But still all around very good for TMU. Still got room to improve. As you can see, this Lucian getting caught out, forced to use his flash. That's what he was saving it for. Of course, I didn't consider he would get caught out as Poppy gets caught out, having to flash as well. Oh my god, just all around action after action as UFT looks to be putting the pressure on, putting the pedal to the metal, not taking their foot off the gas. Instead, they say, we want to put this up into 11th gear, take this to where TMU isn't comfortable, further team fights as they're able to seemingly put their pressure advantage into their hands. As TMU looks to be starting the grubs here, we can potentially see another neutral objective fight.
Second set of grubs is, for now, going over to the side of TMU. Remember, UFT's AD carry isn't here. There's a numbers advantage here for TMU, and it's a lot of damage being traded back and forth. Pragma will eventually die. Meanwhile, Kazakage versus the Wukong in a 1v1 situation that is going to be turned into a 1v3. He does die eventually. And I think UFT, once again, they just overplay their hand just a little bit. Your AD carries on bot side. Relax. He's taking turret plates. He's chilling. Why are we fighting for these grubs? It doesn't matter that much.
Yeah. Yeah, and even though the entire team seems to die just outright to TMU here, you can see the gold advantage is still in the favor of UFT as they look to get a pick here, but they're not quite in the right position. Prey can get the almost entirety of the bot lane, including all of its platings, seemingly for free, whereas TMU seems much more hell-bent on getting these neutral objectives, pushing their advantage, and maybe pushing their decision-making into a place that they were comfortable with in Game 1 and lent them so much success.
Indeed, as Rock Spray here, I think he's trying to bait a fight. Jay is trying to find the knock, but Rock Spray is positioning very well, not giving him the opportunity to knock him into a wall. It's now the Galio ultimate being used as well, but he's gonna have to flash out of the crash down. And Rock Spray said that he was the X factor in this game. He was the character for UFT that needed to be strong, and right now he's doing exactly that. Just gonna walk up and smite that grub straight in the Scary Deathman's face. Hermes is actually looking for the all-in here. He's already used the R1. The R2 is going to be used. He's going to tank the Yone ultimate. QE, very nicely done. It's a solo kill for Hermes. And boy, oh boy, that was perfect execution, if I might say so myself.
Yeah, and indicative of the prestige skin that they're rocking right there. He shows their mechanical prowess on the character. And really interesting to me to see that someone who's evidently put so much time on Akali isn't willing to pull it out until push comes to shove, saying, well, you've banned out all my characters, you've banned out my Ahri, now you really want to see the pain, you want to see my Akali? I'll pick it into a counter and I'll still make it work. Taking that solo kill right into their hands, putting her 0-1 into Galio's, no, 1-0 into Galio's 0-1.
Hey, to be fair, it's not like the Akali actually played into the Galio. That's something that we mentioned before. She basically wasn't in a counter matchup because for some reason TMU refused to swap their laters at any point. I'm not exactly too sure why.
Until
this
now.
Skin is so cute. It's adorable. If you guys don't know the lore behind it, it's specifically for Captain Flowers. Mentioned that he wanted like a truck driver orange skin. and they made, well, they didn't make exactly a truck driver one, they make a train driver one. That's still very cute. And there's like a video of him reacting to the skin. I think everyone should watch it. That's adorable. As regardless of what I think of the Captain Flower skin, both teams are now posturing around the mid lane, trying to defend this tier 1 turret. I think UFT might actually be thinking about a dive here. I think that's what's happening in the comms. The Poppy ultimate, however, is going to push them off. And the Galley ultimate is available as well, just in case they pulled the trigger. So I think it's going to be going back to the lanes so far. Once again, it feels like we keep talking about the drafts, and it seems like there may be something else about League of Legends that is leading these teams to win. It's called, like, execution or something? I don't know. I think it's pretty cool. I think it might matter, actually, to some extent. As obviously I'm making a little bit of light of the idea that draft is the only thing that matters, because it's not. Execution matters, the way that you play the game matters. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. As now UFT are just straight up in TMU's jungle. They're posturing like they want to fight. It's because they want it. They're going to be looking for the Ornborn. It's already one knock on Jay. Is almost dead already. Rock spray. Yeah, the killer instinct still available. That flash is going nowhere, buddy. As Scary Deathman dies, and so does Naotomori and... No, excuse me. Naotomori and Jay die. Scary Deathman will be able to get away, but it's UFT in full control of this game.
Yeah, it's interesting to me that finally they've decided that they want Galio into Akali. I know for a fact as an Akali main myself, there is no point in the game where Akali can kill Galio, whether you have the mechanics or not. It just simply, the math doesn't math. And so, seeing that they've finally decided to place it where they are now, I'm interested to see how their team comp recovers, because Galio, of course, in that top lane can't really reach the fights nearly as easily as if he was in the mid lane. But similarly, that means that Hermes is quite curtailed in their opportunities, no longer able to get those outplays in terms of solo bolos, or even in the outplays in terms of getting away from ganks. Galio can much easierly set up for a gank from Destro, as well as potentially even get a solo kill of their own, considering how well ahead Galio is. I mean, just look at the items. Kali is forced to take Leandries in hopes to do any sort of damage whatsoever, whereas Galio can build full MR as we're up to see this next fight around Dragon.
Third dragon spawning soon. It is the Rift Herald also empowering Justin Destro right now. Good drop into the mid lane to get some extra advantages, some extra priority over the mid lane. Would be relatively smart. The teleport is going to come in from the Akali as well. I would suggest TMU to not fight this. And they might be taking my advice here, as this Rift Herald is going to take the first turret, and TMU are indeed going to be giving away that dragon for free. They have one dragon under the belt already, so they shouldn't be too worried about a soul anytime too soon. Meanwhile, in the top lane, I'm going to be able to take the tier 1, and it's just an exchange. We've seen this play at this point quite a few times over the series, where TMU gives up the dragon or the objective for cross-map turrets. And we'll be able to get that. However, it's still UFT that are solidly in the driver's seat, and it's a Mountain Soul for UFT this game, which is incredibly strong.
Yeah, definitely, especially as a dive/anti-dive team comp, everyone wants that extra tankiness. Everyone wants those extra stats that allow you to push your leads and your breakpoints a little further than you would have without them. And even more powerful than that is the ability to deny it from your enemy. As an anti-dive comp, your best friend is a mountain drake, but if you're able to say, no, actually, I want that drake for myself, you're able to deny your enemies practically any avenues of getting back into this game and getting back into the team fights that are able to win the game as they have in the first game whatsoever. As we see this fight breaking out in the top lane, you're only getting some really good chip damage on Progma. forcing him into retreat and regain his health and base.
20th Kazakage on the Yone, now with the Blade of the Ruined King unlocked, is definitely siphoning away at the HP bar of Pragma. And I think that's one avenue that TMU can look at, similarly to the previous game, where their side lanes are theoretically winning. If you get the Yone into the Ornn, if you get the Galio into the Akali, and with 5 grubs that you have, you can potentially win side lanes. However, this team hasn't exactly managed to play towards their advantages as cleanly as they would have liked. And with Kazakage, though, will be able to find Q3, will be able to find the Wind Beacon lane as well. Nice damage, but the perfect execution means that she's able to get out. And excuse me, it's not Wind Becomes Lightning, that's Zhao's thing. So regardless, you can see that the side lanes are winning for TMU, theoretically speaking. I don't know if it's actually going to matter here. Rock Spray might be looking for the dive here onto Naotomori. He still has access to the Killer Instinct. Naotomori's going to walk up. Rock Spray's taking a lot of chip damage from the turf, though. And he'll be able to walk away. So far, so good. Both teams just kind of trying to poke and prod and find some cracks in the opponent's armor.
Gold difference is shortening a little bit as TMU looks to close in on only about 4,000 gold differential between the two teams. I mean, it's still very possible for either team to come out ahead on a team fight, although it is definitely slated slightly in the advantage of U of T. Still, you still have to work through those sort of natural counters. Difficulty of playing a dive comp into an anti-dive comp is you still gotta be relatively creative with your engages. You gotta be able to take the other team off guard and say that inevitably, I mean, if you're the better player, if you're the better team, you gotta make it work somehow.
So we definitely here. Crash was used, but he's pretty tanky. He's going for some weighing off tanky build, though the Ornn has been called, and this time he will use his flash. Follow up Cyclone though. Straight up man, fetch shield. Not quite enough though, because Rock Spray slowly and securely managed to take a double kill. As this Kaisa that we've been talking about for quite a while now is doing her job. As we haven't even seen the 1v1 happen in top lane, but 20th Kazakage actually died to Hermes in the meantime. And I fear that U of T might be in a position where, at this point, I don't even think that we're going to get that satisfying of the last game, where they're in the driver's seat once again. They have an advantage. Their team composition is just more decisive, and they play more decisively. And TMU are just kind of falling apart.
Yeah, I feel like they're really unable to define what makes their team comp work so well. That anti-dive synergies and the lane matchups, and they decide they're just going to play it as they've been playing the past couple games, which is to say quite chaotically, almost like a skirmish, where in this situation they simply cannot skirmish. They must leave the onus up to U of T to engage and work on that counter engage with that Galio ulti or with that Poppy W, and yet still time after time it seems like they're unable to make that work. They're unable to find the timings that would make those advantages play in their favor, and Galio is once again left out to dry as their benefits are seemingly going into the wind. U of T pushes 5,000, almost 6,000 gold lead as Kasiage. As Yone killing in the top lane.
Nice try. Honestly, nice try. You were close. Yeah, the ultimate here is going to be used. He'll be able to cancel the teleport. So they do get the counterplay into the top side while U of T are taking the sole point. But it's like very similar to all of the last games where TMU are playing purely defensively and reflexively. We're reacting to what they're doing by taking the opposite side of the map, but we're never making corrective plays of our own. And I think that's part of why these games have been feeling the way that they have. U of T have been making practice plays and TMU just haven't. And this is something about League of Legends that you have to learn eventually. You cannot play to not lose. Because this is what happens when you do. Rock Spray just walks up to you with 3 items and just honors you dead. You're taking a turret in the top lane, but I don't think it matters nearly as much as the fact that their Kaisa is extraordinarily fed.
This is true. However, the big bounty in the favor of TMU, and that's bringing it right back down to 4,000 gold differential. The neutral objectives and the momentum is definitely in the favor of U of T, but I wouldn't count TMU out quite yet. They still have plenty of opportunities to make this work. They still have somewhat of a chance in terms of their Lucian, in terms of their Udyr and Yone. They still have the potential to make something shine, which they haven't so far. As they concede some of their top lane in this. Baron begins to spawn. 15 seconds on Baron. Potentially game-winning Baron for whichever team can capture it, especially in the hands of U of T, which, like you said, are able to make these proactive plays work for them rather than working against them.
All U of T has to do is play with their Kai'Sa. It's all they have to do. As long as all 5 of them are on the same page, they're making the same play, and Rock's Prey doesn't int completely out of his mind, this is one game for U of T. However, we have seen them int before. This Baron, however, is going down extraordinarily fast. This is one thing that you can do when you have a Kai'Sa on your team. You can just do Baron. And there's nothing that the enemy team can do if they're not in the right position to contest it. Jay already used his flag, is now most likely going to die to Rock's Prey here. Meanwhile, Scary Deathman is taking a little bit of time to take down, but he will eventually die. Jay is actually going to be able to survive here because the rest of the team is going to the Udyr instead of the Poppy. But now you're one person down. Your jungler's dead. You have Baron. You are so far ahead, and you are so close to taking not only this game, but the entire series. A reminder that this is TMU backs against the wall. If they lose this game, their season of CLOL is done. And UFT are in complete control of the game.
Yeah, driver's seat is a good way to put it, as they are putting all the onus on TMU to get back into the game. They are giving them no space to breathe, no area in which for them to reap any sort of rewards, taking complete control of all of their jungle, taking complete control of every single lane as it pushes out, denies them even further gold. As we can see here, they don't have too bad of a siege either. Kai'Sa able to...
Oh my, this gallery engage is just not going to be the one that you think of. It's a massive counter engage by the Rel. Look, Yo-Yo Mitch finds Rock's Prey, but the killer instinct is more than enough to self-peel. So much damage now coming in from the Kai'Sa. The Akali isn't even in this fight. It's a 4v5. The Ornord is being called. He's only going to find the Poppy, though. No killer instinct available means that UFT, they find 2 kills. And it's going to be traded 2 for 2. But again, this is a 4v5 situation. They're at a numbers disadvantage and they're still winning.
Yeah, absurd. Absurd.
Yeah, that's one way of putting it. It is absurd. And Zermi is pushing in this mid wave all by himself. Scary Deathman is trying to push away this wave that's Baron empowered. Meanwhile, on the top side, they're perfectly comfortable taking this turret, and it's just the base falling apart. The gold lead is growing to a point where 10k gold, might just be a wallet diff in this last fight. There might not even be a good mechanical standpoint, because at this point you're so far ahead that your items are just so damn strong. Beautiful counter engage by Orange, I will say. I mean, hey, they've been playing pretty well all across all of these games, but that counter engage was absolutely beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And it's incredibly difficult. Especially on that Rel, when your movements can be so telegraphed. I'm so appreciative of a good Rel whenever I see it, and here is one of the best. Orange here showing why they're willing contributors to the team and why they should be starting for Team Ruby here, and why they should be in the semifinals here. I mean, if there's one thing that you can say that you're better at, and it's mechanics, you're going to get a lot of respect, especially from support players.
The Rabadons was just one shot by Prey, I want to say. He recalled and he one-tapped the Rabadons. That ginormous hat is now in his inventory, and he is so enabled to win these team fights. I mean, the item difference is so insane. But also, he's been playing so well. I love the way that this Kai'Sa has been playing up in the face. I don't know if you saw, but in the last team fight, he walked up to Galio, was like, hey man, engage onto me. We're the numbers disadvantage. Just do it. Do it, bro. please E on top of me. And he did. He took the bait. She eat away. She managed to dodge out on the taunt, and they managed to win a fight at a team fight or at a numbers disadvantage. Now, UFT, once again, they're at a numbers disadvantage. Their Akali is pushing top, but they're so strong, they might just be able to take this fight and win the game regardless. Though, if they play patiently, they can just wait for their Akali to push top and force him to answer first. It looks like that's what they're going for. They're looking for an all-in to beat Akali, though. Excuse me, onto the Kaisa. She's gonna get taunted, but I don't think it matters. There's so many items, so much damage from this Kaisa. Rock Spray is at about half health. No one on the side of TMU is dead, though. And in the meantime, Wukong goes a little bit too far forward and is gonna die to the burn of the Ood here. Void Seeker doesn't find anything. Hermes now finally pushing onto this top lane inhibitor. He is going to be forced to be answered by Jay this time. I don't think he has the wave clear or the damage for this, though. In the meantime, UFT are going to be able to take the turret. Not the inhibitor quite yet. TMU, you guys have to make a call now. This is why splitting is so powerful. You're forcing the enemies to respond in one way. Though they cleared the wave in the bot lane, you're going to answer the one in the top lane. And it's a stalemate. Without the Baron, it doesn't look like UFT have the power to actually finish this game.
Yeah, I wouldn't quite say stalemate, considering UFT is still almost 10,000 gold ahead, and they're still able to capitalize on virtually everything, but at least TMU have a solid game plan ahead of them. Stay alive. You can see every single inhibitor tower is down, one inhibitor down already. They simply just have to stay within their base and farm up, and in some ways, that simplifies things. If you're sitting on the back leg and you're not able to make any of your plays work, sometimes it's better to just be like, yeah, we've got an inhibitor down, we simply have to farm and hope that some way we can get back into this game. And with no neutral objective spawning other than Baron, this could make for a potential opening in UFT's armor, just like in game one, to be able to make that deciding play work.
I will say, with the wallet difference, with the soul on the side of UFT, with the way that these games have been playing, I put the chances of TMU winning this game at less than like 3%.
Let me dream.
I will let you dream, but I'm letting you know that your dream has a 3% chance of being realized. And what a dream it is. What a beautiful day it would be for that 3% chance of TMU staying alive in the series to be a real one, but this Ornhorn is beautiful. The engage from Hermes, he's looking for the perfect execution. He's going to be able to find it now. Tomori, though, doesn't die quite yet. The HP bars are very low, though, and in the meantime, this Kaisa is still perfectly healthy. 100% HP. Jay is going to die now. It's only the support left alive. You might as well dance your life away. When the bombs are falling, when the Titanic is sinking, I say keep the music playing, as Jay will just dance away. The teleport is coming into the top lane. He will go down eventually. The Icathian rain just does that. Rains on top of the side of TMU. Their foreheads are dropped. The graves are dug. And this tournament and this series is pretty much over. They will be advancing to the finals. I think UFT Ruby with a beautiful performance with dive comps all 4 games. Punch, 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 and they find the KO onto TMU.
GG.
I honestly, that was a super fun series. I think congratulations to UFT's victory. I think they played extraordinarily well. I think they have a great idea of what their identity is in the game. They know what they want to do. They're like, yep, dive comp every single time. We're just going to run it back to back to back to back. And it worked. I think they were right that after game 1, they were like, that's a fluke. We were a little bit nervous, whatever. I'm just like, yeah, just run it back. Let's just do it. Let's just do that again. And it worked. I think UFT Ruby absolutely deserved it. Very well played onto them. Ethan, I don't know what your thoughts on this series were. Just give me a quick rundown of your thoughts, like bullet points.
Yeah, I mean, I think personality is a great way to put it. If you have an idea of your team comp and your play style and you stick to it, even into some of the potentially countering matchups, you can still make it work. If you have that strength of will, if you have that power of mechanics and knowledge of matchups and map mobility, you're able to make what could be a overwhelmingly loss lost game into a overwhelmingly won game like we saw right here. That was probably the biggest stomp of any of the games we've seen so far. U of T incredibly disciplined, taking win after win after win until eventually they were almost 15,000 gold ahead, made it look like an absolute stomp towards the end. And I must say, you were right in this. I should have stuck with my show horse. I should have been with my loyal school and stuck with U of T, but in the end, it is U of T that shows the difference and shows their power on the Rift. And I want to say thank you to both teams for participating. Great best of 5 series. I think both teams showed some real spirit. In the end, U of T showed just a little bit more in the ways that they were able to execute their team comps and the winning team fights and pretty much everything across the board. But love to see U of T in the finals. See my own team play a little bit more, maybe cast some more of these games, and see these players see even more success.
Absolutely. We now know who the better team, or excuse me, what the better school is in Toronto. It's clearly U of T all the way.
Mm-hmm. U of T on top.
Academics, I don't know. I have no clue. I'm a Vancouverite through and through. I have absolutely no clue what's happening. But in terms of League of Legends, I don't know. It seems pretty decisive to me. This is U of T esports stream, obviously, so we're biased or whatever. But again, I'm a third party. I have nothing to do with this, so I can tell you for a fact, U of T esports did win today. And on top of that, they looked like the better team. With that being said, that was all we had to stream for today. I do believe since U of T esports is in the finals, we might be streaming the finals as well. I don't know if I'm going to be streaming that or not. I have no clue. However, it was very fun streaming this one. And Ethan, if you have any parting remarks before we end the stream.
I have been told that there's an Overwatch stream happening. So if you want to catch more of this U of T gameplay, be sure to tune on to that a little later tonight. Similarly, I'm looking forward to the finals and hope that Ruby can potentially take the win home for U of T and show that potentially we're even the best team in CLOL East. Otherwise, it's been great casting with you, Natural. See you next time.
We will see you next time. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we hope you have a great night. Good night, guys.
Bye-bye.